Chapter 8:17. Sing Hui fell silent for a moment before turning his gaze to the other mountains. What he needed to do now was to obtain the benefits that belonged to him. The royal treasury was a place where a ruler expert specially collected treasures for his juniors. Even though its value could not be compared to the entire wealth of a ruler, it still surpassed most experts at the world creation realm with a thought. It was comparable to some new primal chaos giants. Sing Hui continued to travel through the mountains. Almost every mountain had a large number of valuable treasures. These treasures were either divine weapons, natural treasures, or natural treasures. There was everything one could think of. However, Sing Hui had clearly embarked on a different path of cultivation. Many of the treasures that were of great use to ordinary people were nothing to Sing Hui. All he could do was store these things in his personal space and exchange them for resources that would benefit him in the future. After traveling for a while, Sing Hui suddenly stopped in front of a mountain with a diameter of more than 40 kilometers. True God Origin Liquid. A smile finally appeared on Qing Su's face when he saw the clear spring that was less than 30 meters in diameter protected by the formation at the top of the mountain. True God Origin Liquid was not very useful to human cultivators, but it had a significant nourishing effect on special life forms. It was suitable for Qi Yuan. Your opportunity has come. Sing Hui smiled. He took out Qi Yuan and threw it into the clear spring that was only 30 meters in diameter. Qi Yuan clearly understood the effect of the True God Origin Liquid on him. He cheered and immersed himself in the True God Origin Liquid. Time is of the essence. We only have a year at most. You should refine all the energy in the True God Origin Liquid within this year. Otherwise, it will be a waste. Sing Hui said. Father, don't worry. I understand. Qing Su nodded and continued to make his way to the next mountain. Not long after, he stopped in front of a fruit tree. Dragon Transformation Fruit Tree. Sing Hui scrutinized this fruit tree. After a brief comparison, he realized that this Dragon Transformation Fruit Tree, which had been meticulously nurtured by the Kun Dragon Empire's royal family, was actually not as mature as his. He couldn't help but sigh at the miraculous nature of wood spirits. Previously, he had spent 1,400 Dao auras on this Dao vessel. It was indeed the right choice. This dragonization fruit tree is about to mature. If I transplant it into my world and nurture it with the wood spirit, it will bloom and bear fruit in less than half a year. At that time, I'll have another batch of dragonization fruits. Sing Hui thought to himself. His actions did not slow down in the slightest. His world power spread out to quickly bring the dragonification fruit tree into his personal space. Next, he distributed a portion of the wood spirits to wrap around the dragonification fruit tree. Immediately, the dragonification fruit tree, which had been growing at an ordinary rate, began to exude a vigorous life force. Sing Hui continued forward. Although the things he encountered along the way were precious, there weren't many that could catch Sing Hui's eye. It wasn't until he arrived at a mountain in the west that he stopped abruptly. This mountain, there was a divine beast. It looked like a horse, but its body was covered in green and blue scales. Looking at this divine beast, Sing Hui's heart skipped a beat. The name of a divine beast instantly appeared in his mind. Ho! Ho, one of the 12 divine beasts. This divine beast was known as one of the 4 true gods in the ancient legends of Earth. It was once as famous as Nuwa, Hao Tian, and Fu Shi. Although Sing Hui didn't know whether this rumor was true or not, there was no need to doubt the abilities of the divine beast Ho. This Ho, Sing Hui carefully sensed it. Instantly, he was astonished. A 17th level Ho. Sing Hui sized up the mountain for a moment. Soon, his eyes fell on a stone tablet outside the mountain. After sensing it, he immediately understood that this divine beast was actually captured and tamed by the Lord of Kun Su and sealed in this mountain. Once someone with the royal bloodline arrived, they could sign a contract with this divine beast with their own essence blood and become the master of this divine beast. Even though this Ho was only at the 17th level, its strength had already been refined to the peak. It only needed the slightest opportunity to break through and ascend to the 18th level, becoming an overlord that was equivalent to a pinnacle world creation expert. The Lord of Kuan-Su was very thoughtful. On the other side of this mountain, there was another mountain that contained 10 strands of dark wilderness chi and 1 strand of heaven and earth chi. This so-called heaven and earth chi originated from an ancient maxim: heaven and earth are black and earth are yellow and the universe is chaotic. At the beginning of the birth of any world, a strand of heaven and earth chi would be born. Obtaining the heaven and earth chi was equivalent to obtaining the power of a world. Although this saying had been overturned, it could also prove that the heaven and earth chi was mysterious and powerful. The formation of a stable macro world must involve the operation of the Great Way. The heaven and earth chi could almost be regarded as the Great Way chi. This kind of treasure was immeasurable for any divine beast to break through to level 19 and embark on the path of cultivating the origin sacred body as a chaotic creature. This Ho has already reached the peak of level 17. The 10 strands of dark wilderness chi can help it break through to level 18. At level 18, this Ho only needs to settle down for tens of thousands of years. After growing to the peak of level 18 and refining the heaven and earth chi, it will have a chance to cultivate the origin sacred body and embark on the path of evolving into a chaotic creature. If the new emperor of the Kun Dragon Empire really obtains this divine beast and spends time cultivating it to level 19, who in the entire Kun Dragon world can be his match? Xing Hui looked at this divine beast. He had to admit that the Lord of Kuan-Su had almost thought of everything he could think of. The backup plan he had left behind was sufficient to ensure that his descendants could continue to maintain the rule of the royal family after opening the treasury. Divine beasts have a huge advantage over humans. It's said that human cultivators can only cultivate the origin saint body and reach the second level of the Chaos Realm after completing the first level of the Chaos Realm. Divine beasts, on the other hand, are the incarnations of the 12 Great Daos. They don't even need to fuse with the Great Daos to cultivate the origin saint body. It's no wonder that divine beasts at the first level of the Chaos Realm are so much stronger than human experts at the Chaos Realm even without a small world. Xing Hui sighed. His gaze fell on the mountain with the dark wilderness chi and the heaven and earth chi. This peak level 17 divine beast was bound by a contract. Only those with the royal bloodline could activate the power of the contract and become its master. This contract was set up by a terrifying existence at level 2 chaotic realm. Xing Hui could not break it. In other words, this divine beast was not destined to be with him. He could only give up on this divine beast and go to the side of the mountain to collect the 10 strands of dark wilderness chi and the 1 strand of heaven and earth chi. After doing this, he did not disturb this divine beast that was in a semi-sealed state. Instead, he continued to search the other mountains. 3 days later, he had gone around all the mountains in the micro-world and collected everything that was useful to him. Among these things, besides the genuine God Vitality Liquid, the Dragon Transformation Fruit Tree, and the Dark Wilderness Chi, Xing Hui also found a set of Supreme Celestial Weapons. That's right, not one, but a set. Divine Sword, Divine Armor, and a flying boat that could be used as a flying artifact or as a battle fort. What made him speechless was that these divine swords and armor had bloodline imprints on them. Those who were not of the royal bloodline would not be able to use them. Fortunately, these imprints on the divine weapons were not as exaggerated as the contract on the divine beast. Xing Hui could still erase these imprints if he spent enough time. It was just like when he obtained the flying sword of Golden Light Wanderer. After collecting all the useful things, Xing Hui once again went to the mountain where Princess Long Yu was cultivating in seclusion. All the arrays on the mountain had been activated. He could not contact Princess Long Yu who was in the middle of the array. Princess Long Yu was in seclusion and did not go out. As for tearing apart this world and leaving, this method was also rejected by Xing Hui. The worlds of primal chaos realms sovereigns were set up with the Great Tao as the foundation. The degree of sturdiness was much stronger than the worlds of world creation experts. Perhaps if he transformed into the divine beast Kuan Peng and used all his power, he would be able to tear this world apart. However, after tearing this world apart, he would have to expend a lot of energy. In addition, there would definitely be world creation realm experts guarding the outside. When the time came, it would be very difficult for him to extricate himself from the encirclement of those world creation realm experts. For safety's sake, I can only wait for the teleportation technique's cooldown to end. Xing Hui looked at the 1-year cooldown and his heart sank. I only hope that I can make it in time. With no other choice, he began to cultivate in seclusion, refining the 10 strands of dark wilderness qi he had just obtained. However, now that his physical strength had reached the 17th level, the dark wilderness qi's help to him was no longer as significant as before. In half a year, with the 10 strands of dark wilderness qi, although his physical strength had increased, it was still a little far from reaching the equivalent of the 18th level. Even if he collected another round of dragonization fruits during this period and completely refined the dragonization fruit from the dragonization fruit tree in this world, it still only tempered his physical strength to the peak of the 17th level. He was still far from breaking through to the 18th level, still a little far. Thinking of this, his gaze could not help but fall on the dark yellow qi. The dark yellow qi was a top treasure that had a high probability of creating a primal chaos realm divine beast. Using it on a human like him to break through to the 18th level was really a waste. However, thinking of the situation he was facing and the various dangers that Earth's civilization was facing, Xing Hui finally came to a decision. Resources that can be used are the best resources. In history, there have been many examples of people being killed because they could not bear to use the resources they obtained. It's not uncommon for the enemy to benefit. Since the dark yellow qi is very useful for my breakthrough, I'll refine it first. Thinking up to there, Qing Su drew out the most precious strand of Xianhuang qi from his personal space without any hesitation and refined it. Chapter 8:18. The qi of heaven and earth was the first primordial qi derived from the birth of a world. The mystery contained in it was much more profound than the qi of heaven and earth. The moment Xing Hui refined the qi of heaven and earth, his spirit seemed to be stripped from his body and directly touched the scene of the birth of heaven and earth and the birth of the universe. It was like the explosion of a supernova star. Endless brilliance and brilliance filled his spirit world. In that brilliance, he could clearly see the birth and destruction of countless worlds, and countless things returning to silence and end. In this wonderful enlightenment, his fifth sword after the Black Sun sword, which had been lacking a little under the stimulation of the Seven Stars sword spirit, gradually became clear. What was behind the black hole? A black hole was nothing more than a special celestial body that even light could not escape from. If a black hole did not take into account the collapse of its interior and the ejection of matter, there was only one way for it to grow, and that was to keep expanding, expanding, and expanding until it devoured all the matter it came into contact with. When it swallowed until there was nothing left to swallow, its interior would begin to rapidly collapse. At this time, if a supreme and mighty external force intervened, its final form after the collapse would be a special substance. A kind of singularity substance. But if no external force intervened, in the end, the black hole would explode and eject, forming a scene similar to the Big Bang of the universe, thus giving birth to a new universe. Under the influence of the mystery of the qi of heaven and earth and his own accumulated insights, he had become very clear about his next cultivation. His body naturally began to transform. Just as he had guessed, the cells in his body began to form spaces, as if to open up countless miniature planes and miniature worlds in his body. Finally, these worlds would be connected into one and form a vast universe. However, although the qi of heaven and earth had produced this characteristic in his body, the energy it contained was obviously not enough to support Xing Hui to take this step. After all, the human body had 40 to 60 trillion cells. To open up so many cells into miniature spaces, miniature planes, and even miniature worlds, how much energy would it take? At least, before he broke through to the chaotic realm and received the support of the power of Great Tao and had an endless supply of energy, he could not even think about this realm. The power of Great Tao. Xing Hui's gaze fell on the fortune jade. Every time the Taoist rhyme derived from the creation divine jade, other than the basic consumption to maintain the chaos level, the rest was thrown into the derivation of his own Great Tao among the 3,000 Great Taos. But until now. However, there was not even a shadow of a great Tao that was completely compatible with him. This scene even made him wonder if the creation divine jade could deduce the great Tao that belonged to him. However, this suspicion only lasted for a moment before Tsinghui overturned it. The fortune jade was a treasure that peak existences like the Master of Time, the Master of Chaos, and the Master of Gods wanted to obtain. There was no doubt about its wonders. But now, such an inexplicable phenomenon had occurred. Perhaps it had something to do with the fact that the fortune divine jade was incomplete. The amount of energy that the cells can contain has increased by a large margin compared to before. Tsinghui sensed the various changes he had undergone after refining the Xianhuang Qi. He understood that he could truly be called a Class 18 life form now. Furthermore, he also felt that he had reached a limit. If he wanted to break through again, he had to rely on external assistance. This assistance should be the power of the Great Tao Law that everyone talked about. Whether he needed to compress the energy in his body to the limit or let the black hole in his body explode and evolve into a universe after reaching the limit, he needed the Great Tao Law. Without the power of the Great Tao Law, the energy in his body could not be compressed anymore. Once the black hole exploded, he would be directly blown into nothingness by the power derived from the explosion. Furthermore, there was no need for an explanation. He could already guess the cultivation direction of the Chaos Realm. The first level of the Chaos Realm was to merge with the Tao and integrate the power of Great Tao. With the help of the power of Great Tao Law, one could continuously replenish and expand one's own potential. It was roughly equivalent to a Chaos Realm expert continuously expanding and strengthening his own small world. As for the second level of the Chaos Realm, the cultivator needed to cultivate the origin sacred body and form the origin cycle in his body. Thus, his small world could break away from the restraint of the power of Great Tao and possess the characteristic of endless growth. Even if he left the Panga God's domain and the place covered by the 12 Great Tao Law to go to the outside world to fight, he still did not have to worry about energy consumption. This was because the origin sacred body possessed the ability of internal circulation. As for the third level of the Chaos Realm, Tsinghui had never seen one before. He did not even know much about the third level of the Chaos Realm. Hence, he could not make a judgment. Level 18 Body Strength. Tsinghui waved his hand and a stream of sword qi condensed from the power of qi and blood appeared in his hand. However, compared to the blood-red color of the sword body previously, the sword qi at this moment faintly showed a trace of crystallization. Although the color was still mainly red, it was no longer like a blood-red thread like before. Instead, it was like a thin sword refined from a red crystal. The power of the 49 Great Expansion Sword Qis is much stronger than before. However, this sword technique has reached its limit. If all 49 swords are used together, there is no need to think about going against the Chaos Realm giants. However, it will be easy to suppress the Radiant King, the Thunder Punishment King, and even the Godly Might King. I just don't know how it compares to the Heavenly Sword King, who is known as the #1 king. Tsinghui's gaze paused on the crystallized sword qi for a moment before he kept it. He could already feel that there was a problem with his cultivation. If he wanted to break through to the chaotic realm, there were only two ways. The first way was to wait for the creation's sacred jade to continue deriving the Great Way rules that were completely compatible with him. He could only choose to continue breaking through the moment the Great Way rules were formed. As for the other way, it was naturally to recultivate the cultivation system of the divine beast bloodline. As long as he refined the deep scarlet sword, not only would he be able to obtain the power of the deep scarlet sword, but he would also be able to possess the power of the two divine beasts, the golden crow and the torch dragon. If he were to accumulate some more, he would be able to merge the power of the two divine beasts into one when he reached the peak of world creation with single thought. Then, he would be able to refine the fire Great Way and have a high probability of breaking through to the chaotic realm directly. However, in that case, his accumulation over the years would be wasted. Let's wait and see if the creation's sacred jade can derive the Great Way that belongs to me. Anyway, with my current ability, defeating real God Aixin and resolving the crisis that Earth is currently facing isn't difficult. I don't have to race against time like before. Sing Hui thought to himself and put this matter aside for the time being. The most important thing now was to find a way to return to the true Sun Great World as soon as possible, and then return to the divine wilderness from the true Sun Great World. Swoosh! Sing Hui flew at full speed and soon arrived at the mountain where the true God Vitality liquid was. The true God Vitality liquid in the mountain had been refined by the deep scarlet sword. With the assistance of the true God Vitality liquid and the originator's two great treasures, the deep scarlet sword had undergone a transformation. Although it still looked like a sharp sword, its interior was filled with a large number of crystals. Each crystal contained a space. The deep scarlet sword could inject its own energy into those crystals, and when it needed to attack, it would explode out in one breath. Its power was countless times greater than before. This property was somewhat similar to a small world. However, one was a pure world, while the other was divided into crystals through the sword's characteristics. Father. As if sensing Sing Hui's arrival, the deep scarlet sword, who was digesting what it had gained in the past year, jumped out immediately. Not bad. Sing Hui's eyes had a hint of admiration. You reached the 18th step just like that. Very fast. It's all thanks to the cultivation resources provided by Father. Alright, from the looks of it, you haven't had the time to settle and familiarize yourself with the power you have obtained. Go into seclusion properly during this period of time. Yes, Father. As the deep scarlet sword spoke, it transformed into a sword and was worn by Sing Hui. With the deep scarlet sword breaking through to the 18th step, Sing Hui was in a good mood. Soon, he arrived outside the mountain where Princess Long Yu was cultivating in seclusion. The mountain's array was still the same, and there was still no movement. The only change was that in the past year, the mountain where Princess Long Yu was at had become more closely connected with the world's aura. If he was not wrong, although Princess Long Yu had not completely grasped all the power of this world, it was not difficult for her to use the basics. Miss Long Yu, please show yourself. Sing Hui shouted at the mountain's array. His voice directly penetrated into the mountain through a special method, causing the mountain's defensive array to automatically operate. This scene made Sing Hui frown slightly. He had no choice but to speak again. Miss Long Yu, I have something important to do and will leave first. I will return to the true Sun Great World. Please show yourself and open the small world. Still no movement. For a moment, Sing Hui couldn't help but sink. Although Princess Long Yu had not completely grasped this world, she already had some understanding of the basic abilities of this world. He didn't believe that Princess Long Yu wouldn't notice that he was outside this mountain. She was avoiding him now, perhaps she was at a critical moment in her cultivation and couldn't be distracted, or perhaps, it was intentional. Thinking of this, Sing Hui said in a deep voice, Miss Long Yu, I have something extremely important to do and need to leave immediately. Please open the small world and let me leave. Otherwise, I can only find a way to break the small world and leave. If Princess Long Yu can't be distracted because of her cultivation, then it's fine. I will wait here for Princess Long Yu for a month. I hope that during this month, Princess Long Yu can find some time to open the small world and let me out. After that, Sing Hui no longer spoke and sat down cross-legged on the side of the mountain, waiting for Princess Long Yu's reply. At this moment, he could already faintly conclude that he came to the true Sun Great World with the intention of using Princess Long Yu. And after Princess Long Yu learned that he could control the divine beast Kunpeng, she also had the idea of using him to obtain the royal treasury, but thinking about it, he could also understand. Princess Long Yu had lived with Chonglong Great Emperor for hundreds of years and had been a princess for hundreds of years. How could she really be as innocent as she appeared to be, trusting him without reservation and not scheming at all? This didn't make sense. The truth was that they were scheming against each other, cooperating to achieve a win-win situation. Chapter 8:19. Never underestimate anyone. Sing Hui sighed inwardly and began to refine his sword qi on the mountain peak. All of this had already become the foundation of his life and stability. Time flew by. On the 22nd day, Xing Hui clearly sensed that the connection between Princess Long Yu and this world had become closer. In the afternoon of the same day, the formation where Princess Long Yu was in seclusion overflowed with flowing light and dissipated. Not long after, Princess Long Yu came out of seclusion and looked apologetically at Xing Hui. "Young Master Dong Yang, I'm really sorry. These few days happened to be a critical time for me to refine this world, so I didn't have the time to show myself and tell you the details. Moreover, my original foundation was too weak, so I didn't dare to act rashly before completing a stage of cultivation to avoid wasting all my previous efforts. So, I've kept you waiting." "I understand." Xing Hui smiled. It was no longer important whether what Princess Long Yu said was true or false. What was important was that he had to return to the true Sun Great World as soon as possible. From there, he would go to the Divine Wilderness Great World and then head to Earth. The matters of the Kun Dragon Great World no longer had much to do with him. "Congratulations, Miss Long Yu. Right now, you've already grasped 40 to 50% of this world, right? With the power of this world, I'm afraid that there are very few people in the entire Kun Dragon world who can be your match. You only need to contact the Radiant King, Purple Jade King, Rosy King, and the others. Then, you'll be able to lead them and tear apart the defensive line formed by the Thunder Punishment King in the Royal Mausoleum mountain range. Then, you'll meet the Azure Dragon Sovereign and obtain his loyalty. The Radiant King, Rosy Cloud King, Purple Jade King, and the others support me because of the resources in the Royal Treasury. They all know that the Royal Treasury contains resources that can allow one to break through to the chaotic realm and become a chaotic sovereign. That's why they're trying to push me onto the throne of Emperor." Speaking of this, Princess Long Yu revealed a trace of distress. "Actually, young Master Dong Yang, you don't know this, but when the Radiant King, Purple Jade King, Xia King, and the others took me away, they secretly signed an agreement with me. This agreement included that they would make me the Empress of the Kun Dragon Empire and I would bestow the resources of the Imperial Treasury to them. Fortunately, they didn't specify which resources I needed to bestow to them. This gave us room to maneuver. For example, I entered the Imperial Treasury before I became the Empress of the Kun Dragon world and used the items in the treasury in advance. Once I become the Empress, I will bestow an empty treasury to them. This doesn't count as violating the agreement and won't be restricted by the agreement." Hearing this, Xing Hui came to a realization. He found it strange that Princess Long Yu would allow him to use all the resources without hesitation when she could possibly use him. On one hand, she didn't expect that he would be able to enter the treasury with her. On the other hand, she was worried that if she took all the resources, she would violate the agreement. Even though he didn't know what the agreement was, the Radiant King, Rosy Cloud King, and Purple Jade King were so assured of her after she signed the agreement. This was enough to prove how powerful the agreement was. "You mean, the Radiant King and the others can't be trusted?" Xing Hui asked. Princess Long Yu nodded. "If the Radiant King, Rosy Cloud King, and Purple Jade King see that I've broken through to the world creation realm, they'll definitely fly into a rage out of humiliation. It's very likely that they'll rebel in anger like the Thunder Punishment King. At that time, they'll seal off the Imperial Mausoleum mountain range. I won't be able to see the Azure Dragon Sovereign at all. On the contrary, I'll be hunted down by them and be in a precarious situation." At this point, she looked at Xing Hui with a pitiful expression. "So, young Master Dong Yang, I hope that you can help me. As long as you can help me break through the seal of the Imperial Mausoleum mountain range and see the Azure Dragon Sovereign, I'll agree to any of your conditions. Even if you want to become the Emperor of the Kun Dragon Empire, I'll think of a way to push you to that position." Xing Hui shook his head. Becoming the Emperor of the Kun Dragon Empire sounded nice, but in reality, if he wanted to subdue the other world creation realm experts of the Kun Dragon Great World and get them to acknowledge him as the Emperor, what did he rely on? Wasn't it the Azure Dragon Sovereign? As for the Azure Dragon Sovereign, he would only listen to the orders of Princess Long Yu, a direct descendant of the imperial family. At that time, he'd be nothing more than a puppet. If one day, Princess Longyu got tired of this game, she could just find an excuse to overthrow him. This was a huge pie in the sky. The Imperial Mausoleum mountain range is sealed off by the Thunder Punishment King and the others. Furthermore, there's also quite a few great arrays. I won't be able to bring you through the Imperial Mausoleum mountain range and see the Azure Dragon Sovereign. No, young Master Dongyang, you can. Princess Longyu said, I remember that in the Imperial Treasury, there are also 10 strands of profound desolate qi and 1 strand of profound yellow qi. If Mr. Yuqing's Kunpeng can refine those 10 strands of profound desolate qi and 1 strand of profound yellow qi, it'll definitely be able to reach the peak of the 18th level. At that time, it'll be possible to bring us into the Imperial Mausoleum mountain range without a direct confrontation. She then added, it'll take some time for the formation of the Imperial Mausoleum mountain range to be completely activated. As long as we can enter the Imperial Mausoleum mountain range and see the Azure Dragon Sovereign, we won't have to worry about retreating. The difficulty will be reduced by half, so, Xinghui looked at Princess Longyu. It seemed that Princess Longyu knew some things, but there were some that she didn't. But thinking about it, she was just a profound void realm cultivator. Even if she had the backup plan left behind by the Kunpeng, it wouldn't be easy for her to control a sovereign's world in a short period of time. Thinking about her connection with the world, it was estimated that she had only been able to mobilize the basic power of the small world in the past month, and had the ability to see through the entire world. Under such circumstances, it was natural that she couldn't tell who was refining and using the profound desolate qi and profound yellow qi. Miss Longyu, I really want to help you, but there is something I have to deal with in the True Sun Great World as soon as possible. This matter is extremely important to me, not inferior to my life. Therefore, I can only apologize. In any case, as long as Princess Longyu can cultivate in seclusion here for 2 or 3 years, after you completely control this world, you will soon possess the strength of a peak realm with a single thought. At that time, I reckon even the Heavenly Sword King won't be a match for you. You just need to use some methods and join forces. Do you think you won't be able to break through a small royal tomb mountain range and suppress the Thunder Punishment King and the others? Although this world is powerful, so powerful that any boundary realm cultivator who can control it can have a battle strength that surpasses many boundary realm cultivators, but I'm not a true boundary realm cultivator. A year ago, I was only a profound void realm cultivator. Even if I completely control this world, I don't have enough comprehension of the laws, rich battle experience, and detailed cultivation process. So, how can I display the true power of this world? So, even after 2 or 3 years, I still can't break the defensive line formed by the Thunder Punishment King and the others. Princess Longyu said miserably. Then, she looked at Xinghui with a pleading expression and said, Young Master Dongyang, please, help me. If you can help me, I'm willing to take the initiative to erase the imprints on the supreme artifacts, saving you a lot of effort. I can't trust anyone else. The only one I can trust now is you, young Master Dongyang. To be able to obtain 3 supreme artifacts, Xinghui was indeed somewhat moved, but, thinking of the 16-year deadline, he couldn't help but sigh. Miss Longyu, I really want to help you, but that matter is more important to me. I think you should cultivate in seclusion here. Although your cultivation experience and utilization of the small world can't be compared to a true boundary realm cultivator, I believe that as long as you can settle down for several hundred or even several thousand years, you'll be able to perfectly display the power of this small world. At that time, defeating the Thunder Punishment King and the others will be easy. Several hundred years, several thousand years. They won't give me that time. Princess Longyu said and bit her lips. Moreover, young Master Dongyang, there's one thing we've been wrong about. If you want to return to the True Sun Great World, I'm afraid you'll have to wait several decades or even several hundred years. Several decades? Several hundred years? Xinghui was slightly startled, then he shook his head and said, How is that possible? I can directly return through the Rainbow Bridge of the World Rainbow King, just like how I came. Speaking of this, he smiled. You think that the Rainbow King isn't willing to lend me the Rainbow Bridge of the World? After I catch her, I believe she will agree to it. Princess Longyu shook her head. Even if you capture the Rainbow King, it's useless. Because, as far as I know, the Rainbow Bridge of the World Rainbow King often needs to accumulate energy for several decades or even several hundred years before it can open a world passage to allow people to travel back and forth. A year ago, the Rainbow King already used the Rainbow Bridge of the World Rainbow King. The next time she wants to use it again, she can only wait several decades or even several hundred years until the Rainbow Bridge of the World Rainbow King finishes accumulating energy. Only then can she open the world passage again and let you return to the true Sun Great World. When Xing Hui heard this, there was a trace of disbelief on his face. Is what you said true? When I came to the Kun Dragon Great World, didn't you say? Princess Longyu said with a guilty and aggrieved expression, back then, I didn't see the Rainbow King and didn't ask her about it. I'm not very clear about this matter. I only estimated that the Rainbow King sent Dragon Thorn and the others from the Kun Dragon Great World a few months ago and could take them back a few months later. She should be able to use it freely. Who would have thought that it would be so troublesome to use the Rainbow Bridge of the World Rainbow King? These words immediately made Xing Hui's heart sink. True Sun Great World, within 100 years, can't go back. Chapter 820. Damn it. Xing Hui's heart was filled with anger. He had gained a lot from his trip to the Kun Dragon Great World. His strength had risen from the peak of the unrivaled realm to the peak of world creation with a thought, but this didn't mean that he was willing to use these gains in exchange for missing the opportunity to return to Earth. After all, that was his true foundation. The Divine Wilderness Great World, the True Sun Great World, and the Kun Dragon Great World were just relay stations to him. He might stay there, but not for long. If something happened to Earth's civilization during this period, no, I've left a lot of backups in Earth's civilization. Even if the spatial passage expands 16 years later and more powerful beasts invade Earth, Earth will still be able to barely resist. Moreover, no matter how bad the situation becomes, Earth's civilization won't be completely destroyed. After all, there are still 2 great grotto heavens on Earth. That will be the last retreat to preserve the fire of civilization. Xing Hui took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. I'm sorry, young Master Dongyang. I don't want this to happen either. You'd better not let me find out that you lied to me. Otherwise, don't blame me for disregarding our previous friendship. Princess Longyu hurriedly said, Don't worry, young Master Dongyang. I didn't lie to you in the slightest. If you don't believe me, you can ask Saixia King. Of course I'll ask. Young Master Dongyang, in fact, in addition to this method, there is another way to shorten the time it takes to reach the true Sun world. According to the information I learned, the East Sun world opens its external channel every few thousand years to trade materials with other worlds. The next trade with the surrounding hundreds of macro worlds will take place in 43 years, and the location of the trade will be in the Yuan world. The Yuan world is a famous trading hub. Every time it opens, invitations will be sent to the surrounding worlds, including our Kunlong world. If young Master Dongyang is eager to return to the True Sun world, you might as well contact the traders of the True Sun world during the trade and follow them back to the True Sun world. 43 years, Xing Hui looked at Princess Longyu. In that case, are there any prerequisites for heading to the dimensional world? After our great founder, the Lord of Kun Ruins, left the Kun Dragon world, for safety reasons, we chose to close our country temporarily. Currently, the teleportation formation from the Kun Dragon world to the Yuan world is closed. If we want to open it, half of the 24 kings need to have their king's seal and the imperial jade seal. In other words, you have to at least flatten the Kun Dragon Great World and make those kings obey your orders. Xing Hui's expression was somewhat cold. Princess Longyu seemed to have heard the distrust in Xing Hui's words. She immediately felt pain. Her charming eyes became misty as she said, Young Master Dongyang, you have to believe me. I'm telling the truth. There's no point in hiding this from you. You can ask any king and they will tell you if I'm telling the truth or not. I'll ask around. Don't you still need 2 or 3 years to take control of this world? Open the dimensional world and let me leave to verify. If what you said is true and you're not lying to me, I'll return in 2 or 3 years. Xing Hui said. Princess Longyu nodded happily at Xing Hui's words. Young Master Dongyang, you can ask any king or duke. I'm telling the truth. I'll open the dimensional world for you to verify. She seemed to have thought of something at this point. But, a year has passed. The God Might King must have returned. It's very dangerous outside. Do you want to wait a little longer? No need. If I want to leave, the God Might King and the others won't be able to stop me. Princess Longyu thought of the Kun Peng's tyrannical talent in escaping and finally nodded. Alright, then I'll open the dimensional world. Young Master Dongyang, do you want to ask Mr. Yuqing to make the preparations? Xing Hui glanced at Yuqing's incarnation that didn't have much of a sense of existence. After pondering for a while, he decided to let this mysterious Yuqing continue to exist. I'm ready. Princess Longyu, open your dimensional world. Yes, young Master Dongyang. Be careful. As soon as Princess Longyu finished speaking, layers of ripples spread out in front of Xing Hui. Not long after, a spatial passage leading to the outside world formed in front of him. When Princess Longyu opened the spatial tunnel, Yuqing's aura erupted. Using his aura as a cover and when Princess Longyu's attention was diverted, Qing Su's figure conjured up. He directly replaced himself with a clone, while the clone used a transformation technique to turn into a divine beast, the Kunpeng. At this moment, his physique had already reached the 18th level. Even if he hadn't reached the level of a Kunpeng, he could still maintain his Kunpeng form for several days. After transforming into the Kunpeng, he didn't have any burden to put his 2 incarnations into the dimensional world. Then, like a stream of light, he shot out of Princess Longyu's dimensional world. Almost at the same time he rushed out of Princess Longyu's dimensional world, several powerful auras surged over. Clearly, it was the God Might King and the others who were guarding the treasury. However, the God Might King couldn't be sure whether it was Xing Hui or Princess Longyu who came out of the dimensional world. Although the aura surged down, it didn't attack immediately. This gave Xing Hui an opportunity. As the Kunpeng's innate ability erupted, the layers of dimensional worlds, 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 dimensional world was torn apart. Kunpeng. The 18th level Kunpeng. It's the villain who kidnapped Princess Longyu. Suppress him. Activate the formation, activate the formation. All sorts of shouts rang out as Xing Hui appeared. At the same time, a towering canopy that covered the sky and the sun rose, covering a radius of tens of thousands of kilometers. This is, sensing the change in the surrounding space, Xing Hui's expression suddenly changed. A 19th order array. With the power of the Great Path, it could even suppress the power of the small world of an expert who had reached the boundary realm with a single thought. Looking at how quickly the array was operating, it was obvious that they had been maintaining the array in an activated state all this time. As for the 19th order formation, it was a supreme formation that could allow a pinnacle expert to fight against an autarch. Even if it was only half-activated for a day, it would consume a vast amount of energy. If this energy was concentrated on a single person, it would be enough to allow a virtual shattering expert to condense a divine true body. It had already been a year since he had entered the treasury of the imperial family. According to the state of the formation, it had clearly been operating in a half-activated state during the past year. In other words, the energy that could have condensed at least 365 divine true bodies had been wasted just like that. Qing Su could not help but sigh in amazement at the wealth of the people of the imperial capital of the Kunlong world. The 19th order formation was so powerful that it could freeze the void. Even Xing Hui, who had transformed into the divine beast Kunpeng, felt as if he had fallen into a swamp. If he was a real mythical Kunpeng, and had refined the qi of heaven and earth and cultivated to the peak of the 18th level, he might be able to tear a crack in the array and escape with his innate skills. However, he was not a real mythical beast. After sensing the possibility of being suppressed, he did not hesitate to reveal his Yuqing incarnation and let it place one hand on the divine beast Kunpeng. With a flash of spatial ripples, the array that was about to complete the seal was suddenly broken. The figures of the two people and the beast disappeared in an instant. Teleportation technique. The four-world creation realm experts who had appeared at the same time cried out in alarm. Teleportation technique, a technique that only Sons of Chaos at the 30th level could use. It's that bastard. The God Might King seemed to recognize the person who had used the teleportation technique and immediately cursed in anger. God Might King, what should we do next? Issue a warrant. Send an order to all the kings to arrest this person. It's very likely that he has seized the items in the royal treasury. Her Highness Princess Longyu might also be held hostage by him. He must be arrested and brought to justice, the God Might King growled. The godly Might King growled. His gaze towards where Qing Su had vanished was filled with fury. His duty was to oversee the royal treasury, but now, such a huge mistake had occurred in his hands. If Tsing Hui hadn't chosen to use a teleportation technique to leave, he would have probably chased after him at the first opportunity. Teleportation technique. Inside the royal treasury formed from the primal chaos minor world, Princess Longyu had used all sorts of abilities derived from the world creation realm to personally witness Tsing Hui break through the God Might King and the others' blockade. Even a 19th level formation couldn't trap him. If it weren't for the fact that the teleportation technique has to be somewhere he's seen or been to before, I could have even let him teleport me directly into the royal mausoleum. Princess Longyu looked at Tsing Hui's disappearing figure with some reluctance. Even if Tsing Hui hadn't been to the royal mausoleum and couldn't use a teleportation technique to go there, it would have been fine if she had one. She still had some memories of going to the royal mausoleum to pay respects to her ancestors when she was young. If she had a teleportation technique, she could have directly teleported to the royal mausoleum and met the Azure Dragon Sovereign. However, a teleportation technique that only Sons of Chaos at the 30th level could use, Princess Longyu looked in the direction Tsing Hui had disappeared, a trace of contemplation flashing through her eyes. When young Master Dongyang followed me into the royal treasury, he used a secret technique. It's a dimensional lock derived from the 60th level of the primal chaos minor world, right? Thinking of this, she couldn't help but have a complicated expression. A 60th level Son of Chaos was much higher than she'd expected. Even if he'd inherited this level, he'd at least be at the 30th level, completely meeting the requirements to use a teleportation technique. What was even more shocking was that, what method did someone from the true Sun Great World use to make his primal chaos minor world reach the 60th level that even their Kun Dragon Great World's ancestral master hadn't reached? This Dongyang, what kind of fortuitous encounter did he have? Chapter 821. Young Master Dongyang, Princess Longyu sighed softly. Her tone was somewhat unwilling, more than that, it was a desire that could never be satisfied. When she'd sought Taoism, she'd been thinking of how to leave the devil's den as soon as possible and not live the life of a prisoner. When Long Ci and the others appeared and informed her of her true identity, she thought that she had to bring along a force that belonged to her. Otherwise, when she returned to the Kun Dragon Great World, she would not have any autonomy and become a puppet. As a princess of the Chonglong Empire, she had seen many similar things. When she'd arrived at the Kun Dragon Great World and learned of the Radiant King's astonishing power, she'd thought of how to borrow this power as soon as possible to become the Empress of the Kun Dragon Great World. However, when she'd been rescued by Tsing Hui, she'd thought of borrowing Tsing Hui's power to enter the imperial treasury as soon as possible. Only her own power would truly belong to her. The so-called identity of a princess and future empress was nothing more than duckweed. However, now that she'd entered the imperial treasury and inherited the primal chaos sovereign's great world, she truly wanted to know Tsing Hui's primal chaos realm and how he'd managed to raise his primal chaos realm to such a level. Princess Longyu soon seemed to have made a decision in her heart, and her eyes gradually became resolute. However, there was also a trace of guilt in her heart. Young Master Dongyang. Don't worry, when the time comes, I'll definitely repay you. When the time comes, I'll definitely make you the most respected person in the entire Kun Dragon Great World, second only to me. I believe that when the time comes, you'll understand the difficulties I'm facing now. Xinghui had transformed into a Kun Peng and was freely traversing the Kun Dragon Great World. Although the Kun Dragon Great World's foundation was much deeper than the True Sun Great World, in Xinghui's mind, the Kun Dragon Great World was still inferior to the True Sun Great World. The main reason for this phenomenon was the primal chaos realm. In the Kun Dragon World, there was only one chaotic realm expert, the Azure Dragon Sovereign. Furthermore, as the Azure Dragon Sovereign was one of the 6 divine saints, his true battle prowess could not compare to the supreme divine beasts. Furthermore, this sovereign was still recuperating in the Imperial Mausoleum mountain range, so his position was stable. But it was different in the True Sun Great World. There were a total of 3 primal chaos supremes in the True Sun Great World. These 3 supremes were located in different places, and they could radiate their power to a radius of several 100,000 kilometers. If something went wrong and he caused too much of a commotion, the 3 supremes of the True Sun Great World might sense it. By then, it would be troublesome. Therefore, when he transformed into a Kun Peng to fly in the Kun Peng Great World, he was much freer than in the True Yang Great World. The Radiant Saint Hall is right ahead. Let me see if the Caixia King is in the Radiant Saint Hall or not. Xinghui looked around and used the aura examination technique. Very soon, he saw the entire Radiant Saint Hall. World creation experts possessed miniature worlds, so it was very difficult for them to hide their presence, let alone the fact that Qing Su even had the aura examination technique that he had mastered to perfection. After observing for a while, he locked onto Caixia King's position very soon. The Radiant King is actually here as well. This is a little troublesome. Fortunately, the Purple Jade King is not here. Xinghui patted the Scarlet Abyss sword on him. Scarlet Abyss, if I let you entangle the Radiant King, can you do it? Xiao. Scarlet Abyss sword's figure flashed and directly floated in front of Xinghui. Father, if I just entangle him, I should be able to do it. Alright then, I'll go lure the Caixia King out. If it goes well, the Caixia King will be fooled and follow us out. If it doesn't go well and the Radiant King catches up, then I'll leave the Radiant King to you. Xinghui instructed. Yes, father. Xinghui nodded. His gaze swept across the Radiant Saint Hall. He sensed carefully, and very soon, he sensed where Yunxia was. Yunxia was the personal maid of the Caixia King. If she discovered anything unusual, she would definitely inform the Caixia King immediately. From the fact that there are only 5 world creation experts outside the royal treasury, I can tell that the godly Might King has sealed off the news of the royal treasury being robbed. In other words, the Radiant King and the others should not know that I can transform into a rank 18 divine beast. Their understanding of me is still limited to the divine true body realm, and I have the protection of an expert who can control a rank 17 Kun Peng. The rank 17 divine beast Kun Peng is not weak. It is difficult for traversal experts to capture it, and the status of a world creation expert is equivalent to that of the Caixia King. In order to avoid troubling others, the Caixia King should directly come to chase after me. After all, in her opinion, if she can capture me, it will more or less be a bargaining chip to influence Princess Longyu. As Xinghui spoke, the rank 18 Kun Peng began to restrain its aura under the influence of the Shadowless Immortal technique. Before long, it had already retracted to the level of a rank 17 Kun Peng. After transforming into the rank 17 divine beast Kun Peng, Xinghui used another clone to manifest his body. Then, he pretended to peek at the Radiant Saint Hall, and unintentionally exposed himself to Yunxia. And the moment Yunxia sensed him, he immediately stealthily flew out of the Radiant Saint Hall. As Xinghui expected, Yunxia who received the news immediately reported it to the Caixia King, and the Caixia King personally chased after him. During this time, the Radiant King also sensed it and quickly followed. There were actually a total of 8 world creation Grand Dukes with him. For the forces of the Radiant Saint Hall, this could be said to be an all-out effort. What's going on? Xing Hui was surprised. Wasn't this a little too much? Frowning, Xing Hui wanted to use the full power of the Kunpeng and leave first. He had no confidence in capturing the Caixia King and taking the Rainbow Bridge from the encirclement of 10 World Creation Grand Dukes. Back at Princess Longyu's place, he had been suppressing his anger. But now, such a small matter had actually caused such a change, causing his mood to become even worse. Just when he was about to give up on the plan and leave quickly, the Radiant King, Caixia King, and so on attracted his attention. Among the 10 Boundary Realm experts, the Radiant King and Rosy Cloud's King were obviously much faster. Among them, Rosy Cloud's King's flying speed was even higher than the Radiant King's. After a chase, Rosy Cloud's King, who was the first to move, was already 3 breaths away from the Radiant King. As for the remaining 8 Boundary Realm experts, they were more than 30 breaths away. I can give it a try. Xing Hui turned and directly tore the void barrier of the Kun Dragon World, entering the endless void. The Radiant King and the Caixia King followed closely behind. Just when the two of them pulled away from the other 8 World Creation Grand Dukes, Xing Hui directly took out the Scarlet Abyss Sword. Entangle the Radiant King, Caixia King, I'll take care of her. Leave it to me. The Scarlet Abyss Sword responded and whistled past the Caixia King, heading towards the Radiant King who was following closely behind. Xing Hui, who had transformed into the Kunpeng, also erupted with all his strength. His huge body carried the courage of not fearing death. Like a meteor cutting through the void, he fiercely crashed into the world of the Caixia King, as if he wanted to vent all the grievances in his heart through this kind of unsparing impact. This is going all out. Not good. When the Caixia King saw that Xing Hui, who had transformed into the Kunpeng, had actually used his terrifying body to directly crash into his small world, his face changed greatly in fright. He frantically wanted to retreat from his world. However, the movement of a world was different from the movement of a cultivator's body. Its speed was not that fast. In addition, at this moment, it was the Kunpeng, who was extremely proficient in speed. It was even more impossible for him to dodge. For a moment, like a comet hitting the earth, the surface of the small world of the Caixia King, which was more than 20,000 kilometers in diameter, rippled at a speed visible to the naked eye at the place where Xing Hui collided. This circle of ripples instantly affected nearly half of the small world of the Caixia King, causing the small world affected by the ripples to collapse crazily. Countless fragments and void crystals were annihilated, sputtering in all directions. The creatures, flowers, and trees living in that small world were all annihilated by this world-destroying disaster, turning into ashes. However, although the Kunpeng had destroyed a small part of the small world of the Caixia King, its own collision method of destroying everything indiscriminately also caused him to crash into himself, dying tragically on the spot. Crazy. Crazy. You're crazy. The face of the Caixia King, who was chasing after the small world, turned deathly pale. She never thought that she only wanted to trap Yu Qing and Xing Hui first, and then capture them after the Radiant King and the other Grand Dukes caught up. However, Yu Qing, who was controlling an 18th level divine beast, actually directly ordered his Kunpeng to destroy her small world. Even if she dodged extremely quickly, nearly half of the small world was still smashed to pieces. This kind of tragic loss, even if she went into seclusion for hundreds or thousands of years, she would not be able to recover. In fact, not only the Caixia King, but the Radiant King, who was stopped by Qi Yuan, was also frightened. On one hand, it was Yu Qing's determination to destroy Caixia King with an 18th level divine beast without hesitation. On the other hand, it was the 18th level sword spirit in front of him. These two creatures, each of them belonged to the top of the 18th level creatures. Right now, Yu Qing actually summoned two of them in one breath. Then, how powerful was Yu Qing, who they had never paid much attention to, and whose aura was unfathomable? Soon, the Radiant King had already seen the true strength of the mysterious expert named Yu Qing. As he suddenly appeared from the location of Caixia King's broken world, crystallized swords constantly shot out from his body, bringing with them an invincible sharpness. Some of them shot into Caixia King's small world, constantly collapsing the laws of Caixia King's small world, causing the space of the small world to collapse on a large scale. The other part strangled toward Caixia King, trapping Caixia King on the spot, unable to move. Feeling the mystery and power contained in the 49 crystallized swords, the Radiant King suddenly felt a chill all over his body. World creation with a thought. The power contained in each of these 49 crystallized swords was almost equivalent to that of the weakest expert in the world creation with a thought realm. 49 swords were equivalent to 49 experts in the world creation with a thought realm. When this power surged down, perhaps even the Heavenly Sword King, who was known as the #1 king in the Kunlong Great World, would find it difficult to resist. He never thought that Yu Qing, who they had all overlooked and kept a low profile, was actually an invincible existence in the world creation with a thought realm. Chapter 822. Rumble. Violent explosions filled the small world of Rosy Cloud's king. Each explosion would take away a large number of void crystals and fragments of the world. After being struck by Tsing Hui's 18th level divine beast, Rosy Cloud's king was already heavily injured. Now, under the crazy strangulation of the 49 crystallized swords, he almost did not have the power to fight back. The whole world collapsed and shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye. But for the battle before him, Tsing Hui was not satisfied. The 49 Great Derivation Sword Qi is a divine ability similar to a sword formation. At present, the sword formation of the 49 Great Derivation Sword Qi hasn't received the support of the energy of the Grand Tao, so its might is limited. The main function of the formation is to condense the collapsed Sword Qi once more. Its ability to continue in battle has indeed been greatly increased, but its might hasn't been increased in the slightest. As a result, it doesn't have any ultimate moves that can determine the outcome of the battle with a single strike. Tsing Hui looked at Rosy Cloud's king, who was still tenaciously resisting, although he was suppressed to the point that he could not breathe. Then, he glanced at the Scarlet Abyss Sword Spirit, who was suppressed by the Radiant King, and frowned slightly. At this rate, he was afraid that he would not be able to defeat and capture Rosy Cloud's king before the 8 Grand Dukes caught up. Even if the 8 Grand Dukes came, relying on the power of the sword formation formed by the 49 Sword Qi, he was still confident that he could exhaust them all to death. However, such a battle would definitely be protracted. It would be normal for it to take 10 days to half a month. At that time, if the Radiant King called for reinforcements, he did not even need to invite a mighty figure of the world realm. He could rely on the Traversal Realm experts in the Great Radiant Temple to form a battle formation to defeat him in one fell swoop. My strength alone is not enough to fight against these kings who have teamed up, Tsing Hui sighed. His gaze was focused on the heavily injured Rosy Cloud's king. If he wanted to end the battle quickly, he could only use some secret techniques that might expose his chaotic level, such as freezing technique. Tsing Hui waved his hand, and a freezing spell fell on Rosy King. To ensure his safety, he also took out the ancient divine world fragment, allowing others to clearly feel the aura of the Master of Gods in the ancient divine world fragment. This was to prevent the other party from associating it with his chaotic rank. The complexion of Rosy Cloud King, whose chaotic characteristics were frozen by freeze, suddenly changed. Without the assistance of recovery and other characteristics, her world operation clearly showed a trace of sluggishness. Master of the Gods, you actually have a secret treasure blessed by the Master of the Gods that can interfere with the power of the Son of Chaos? Rosy Cloud's king let out a cry of horror. However, Tsing Hui did not answer. At the same time that he used freezing technique, the divine technique was activated. The next moment, the power of the crystallized sword shot out with a whistling sound. Taking advantage of the fact that Rosy Cloud's king had lost her recovery characteristics, the sword slashed fiercely into her world. Endless sword light burst out from the world, like streaks of bloody rainbows that tore the sky and shattered the void, tearing Rosy Cloud's king's small world into pieces. Rosy Cloud's king, who had been fused into one with the small world, let out a painful scream. The power of the world frantically shrank, and at the same time, she wanted to retreat to the place where the Radiant King was. Radiant King, Save me! Rosy Cloud's king shouted. Damn it, get out of my way! When the Radiant King saw the crisis of the Rosy Cloud's king, he let out a roar. In his world, there seemed to be tens of thousands of rays of light shooting out. This ray of light was filled with a tyrannical purifying power. It seemed that other than his energy, all other energy would be completely expelled and rejected. Under the illumination of this power, the body of the Scarlet Abyss Sword Spirit seemed to be corroded by sulfuric acid. A large number of spots appeared, and some places were penetrated by corrosion, forming holes. The Scarlet Abyss Sword Spirit's face also showed a painful expression. However, the Scarlet Abyss Sword Spirit obviously knew that Xing Hui's action had reached the most critical moment. It endured the pain of being purified by the light and firmly blocked in front of the Radiant King, not allowing him to take even a step forward. Rumble. Violent vibrations and explosions rumbled in the direction of Rosy Cloud's king. Rosy Cloud's king, who had been destroyed to pieces, could no longer maintain the operation of her small world. Like a star that had lost its core and gravity field, countless matter and energy were ejected from this star and scattered in all directions. Her own world, because of the loss of the core, quickly disintegrated and collapsed. No! Rosy Cloud's king let out a shrill scream. A powerhouse of the One Thought realm fused themselves with the world. As long as the world existed, they would be immortal. If the world collapsed, their soul would scatter. Right now, Rosy Cloud's king's world was collapsing, and even her core was about to shatter. It seemed that only death was waiting for her. However, those crystallized swords that were slashing towards Rosy Cloud's king's world core, which was full of cracks, suddenly stopped when they were about to completely destroy Rosy Cloud's king's world core. Immediately afterward, Xing Hui brazenly made his move, crossing thousands of kilometers of the void and directly grabbing the world core in his hand, just like a human whose heart was grabbed. Grabbing the world core, Xing Hui mobilized the power of space to wrap around Rosy Cloud's king, whose face was pale and body seemed to be about to collapse at any time. He quickly took her away from the battlefield and fled to the end of the void at the fastest speed. Seeing Xing Hui leave, the Scarlet Abyss Sword Spirit also quickly left the battlefield and chased after Xing Hui. Without the obstruction of the Scarlet Abyss Sword Spirit, the Radiant King wanted to continue the chase, but when he thought of the terrifying combat power Xing Hui showed when he killed Rosy Cloud's king, his heart suddenly turned cold. The sword array formed by the 49 crystallized swords continued to attack, even his world power may not be able to resist it. That Yu Qing, no wonder he could even subdue the level 18 divine beast Kuanpeng. He was actually a supreme expert on par with the Heavenly Sword King. Buzz buzz. Just as the Radiant King was filled with fear of the mysterious Mr. Yu Qing, waves of world power surged from behind. The 8 Grand Dukes had arrived. In order to prevent discord among his subordinates, the Radiant King had to continue the chase with the 8 Grand Dukes even though he was afraid of Yu Qing's tyrannical strength. However, after such a delay, coupled with the fact that Xing Hui had used the yin-yang reversal immortal technique more than once at the position he left, disrupting their tracking trajectory, by the time they really caught up, there was no trace of Xing Hui and the others. Whoosh! In the endless void, Xing Hui captured Rosy Cloud's king and quickly shuttled through the spatial storm. This kind of spatial storm, which was extremely dangerous for ordinary divine realm experts, was not worth mentioning for him at this moment. The existence of these storms even had a special effect of concealing the aura traces on his body, so Xing Hui deliberately captured Rosy Cloud's king and entered these storms. Whoosh! After Xing Hui shuttled forward for a moment, a sword light suddenly whizzed over. It was Scarlet Abyss. Seeing Scarlet Abyss's weak appearance and the traces of corrosion on his body, Xing Hui's eyes flashed with a trace of anger. He said in a deep voice, "Scarlet Abyss, it's been hard on you. It's my honor to be able to help Lord Father." Scarlet Abyss forced a smile and said, "Father, I'm going to rest for a while." Go ahead and recuperate well." "Father, don't worry. With the replenishment of that treasure, I'll be able to help Father fight again in 10 years at most." Xing Hui naturally knew what treasure Scarlet Abyss was talking about. It was the originator. Even with the originator, Scarlet Abyss still needed 10 years to completely recover. It was clear how serious his injuries were. I'll also find a way to find a Dao fruit for you to speed up your recovery. Alright, you can rest now. Thank you, Father. Scarlet Abyss responded happily. In his opinion, that Dao fruit was a treasure that could speed up his evolution even more than the originator. After cheering, Scarlet Abyss quickly turned into a sword and hung on Xing Hui's waist. When this scene fell into the eyes of Caixia King, whose life was hanging by a thread, it made him feel even more desperate. An 18th order divine beast, an 18th order divine sword, this was a weak traversal realm human, but clearly a terrifying star beast in human skin. It seems that the Radiant King's group won't be able to catch up. As Xing Hui spoke, his gaze swept across the void for a moment, and soon fell on an area filled with void storms. His figure shuttled, and soon arrived at the center of the void storm. He then used Shadowless Stance to restrain his aura and reverse Yin and Yang to erase his traces. Caixia King, I captured you not to kill you. As long as you can answer some questions that satisfy me, I can let you go. Xing Hui said indifferently. This sentence immediately made Caixia King, who was filled with despair, reignite his desire for life. Your Highness Yuqing, what do you want to ask? The whereabouts of Princess Longyu? According to the news from the 4 Sea Kings. Shouldn't Princess Longyu have been taken away by you? For Sea Kings, hearing this, Xing Hui couldn't help but be enlightened. No wonder the Radiant King and the others had mobilized so many people to hunt him down after discovering his whereabouts. The Godly Might King had concealed his information from outsiders, but the 4 Sea Kings had spread the news that he might be able to control the 18th Order Divine Beast Kunpeng. No wonder the Radiant King and the others valued him so much. After a while, he shook his head. I came with Dong Yang to protect him, but not long ago, I had some small conflicts with Dong Yang, so the two of us separated. Personally, I have no interest in the struggle for power in your Kunlong Great World. I came to find you this time to borrow your World Rainbow Bridge to send me back. It's that simple. Caixia King heard this and felt sullen. If you want to borrow my World Rainbow Bridge to return to the True Sun Great World, you should have said so earlier. Do you need to shatter my world to the point of collapse? However, in front of this terrifying existence who was not inferior to the Heavenly Sword King, she naturally didn't dare to say these words. She only said, if your Highness Yuqing wants to return to the True Sun Great World, you only need to give the order. When the World Rainbow Bridge is full of energy, I will immediately open the World Passage to send Mr. Yuqing back. Oh. How long will it take for the World Rainbow Bridge to be full of energy? Xing Hui asked somewhat nervously. Very soon, 80 years will be enough. Chapter 823. 80 years. Xing Hui's heart sank when he heard Caixia King spit out this time limit so casually. 80 years, for Caixia King, who had already stabilized the world and expanded it to more than 20,000 kilometers, it was not worth mentioning. After all, based on Caixia King's age, she had definitely cultivated for more than 30,000 years, and this number would only increase. 80 years out of 30,000 years was only equivalent to a few months in the impression of mortals. And if one were to extrapolate from the one-thought boundary realm who had stabilized the world for millions of years, 80 years was only equivalent to a few days. A few days for the one-thought boundary realm experts, but for Xing Hui, it was already equivalent to all his cultivation until now. After all, so far, his cultivation time added up to less than 100 years. 80 years is too slow. Is there any other way? I have urgent matters to attend to and need to return to the True Sun Great World. Xing Hui said with a gloomy expression. This attitude made Caixia King panic. Her life was now in the hands of Xing Hui. Under the premise that Xing Hui did not have the intention to kill her, if she was killed because of her attitude, then she really wanted to cry but had no tears. She hurriedly activated her brain, thinking quickly, and quickly thought of a way. The charging power of the World Rainbow Bridge is the law of space. If it is placed in the void turbulence and guarded by someone, then it should be able to reduce the charging time to 50 years. 50 years is still too slow. Then, in another 40 years, our Kun Dragon Great World and the Yuan World as a transit world will have a grand trade fair. The experts of the True Sun Great World should also participate in this trade fair. At that time, Mr. Yu Qing can return with the people of the True Sun Great World. When Sai Xiaking said this, her tone paused slightly. However, due to the great changes that happened to our Kun Dragon Great World thousands of years ago, the previous emperor temporarily closed the teleportation array from the Kun Dragon Great World to the Yuan World. If you want to open the teleportation array again, you need the Emperor's Jade Seal and at least 12 King's Seals. No, it's still too slow. Is there a faster way to return to the True Sun Great World? Faster? Sai Xiaking's perfectly maintained pretty face became obviously nervous. She had failed to provide Xing Hui with any beneficial value twice in a row. She was afraid that she would give the other party a useless idea and then directly kill her. Fortunately, after a moment, she seemed to have thought of something. After hesitating for a moment, she slowly said, "Your Highness Yu Qing. I wonder if you have heard of the evil god." Evil god? Xing Hui was slightly startled. He had vaguely heard someone mention these terms before. Tell me in detail. Yes, Your Highness Yu Qing. Sai Xiaking saw that she could finally provide information that interested Xing Hui. She quickly sorted out her thoughts and slowly said, "In the vast starry sky, only those who have reached the chaotic realm can be called a real overlord. Among these overlords, there are strong and weak. The weakest are naturally those who have just been promoted to the chaotic realm, and often can only occupy a barren world, or jointly occupy a big world with several supreme masters. Above these giants, there are dominators like our great king of the Kun ruins, and great mediums who are said to be more powerful than the dominators." Xing Hui nodded. He had heard this information before. In fact, if the chaotic realm is divided into 6 stages, the longevity realm, the saint realm and the divine realm, then the supreme master who can be supported by the power of the Great Way is the first stage. The dominators who have cultivated the mixed Yuan sacred body, and their energy is endless, are the second stage. And those great mediums who are said to have completely become part of the Great Way Law are the third stage. Completely become part of the Great Way Law? Xing Hui quickly interrupted Sai Xiaking. You mean, those in the third stage of the chaotic realm, who are called great mediums, are equivalent to completely becoming part of the Great Way? Yes. Incarnation of the Great Way. Xing Hui suddenly had a strange premonition in his mind. He thought of the saints in the myths and legends, and also the Tao ancestor Hong Jun, who merged with the Tao and mended the Tao of the heavens. What is incarnation of the Great Way? What is the specific saying of incarnation of the Great Way? Xing Hui asked. Sai Xiaking's face suddenly became a little bitter. I really don't know. Even the power of the great mediums comes from incarnation of the Great Way. I have only heard about it from others. I can't really judge whether this is true or not, because we have never seen a real great mediums. As for the evil god, I often hear people mention it. Then tell me about the evil god you mentioned. Yes. When Rosy Cloud King heard this, her spirits were slightly lifted, and she said, "According to the information I received, there is an immeasurable gap in strength between a great magician who is equivalent to the 3rd level of Chaos Realm and an evil god who is equivalent to the 4th level of Chaos Realm. It is said that this gap cannot be described with words or numbers." You mean, the 4th stage of the chaotic realm and the 3rd stage of the chaotic realm are equivalent to the difference between the divine realm and the golden elixir realm? Divine realm and the golden elixir realm? Sai Xiaking shook her head. If you must make a comparison, it should be the divine true body realm and the golden elixir realm. Xing Hui couldn't help but be slightly stunned. The difference between these two realms can't be measured with words. Sai Xiaking said and seemed to find it hard to believe. She hurriedly added, "Of course, this is only hearsay. I can't be sure if the gap between the 3rd stage of the chaotic realm and the 4th stage of the chaotic realm is really that huge. The only thing I can be sure of is, even if the evil god doesn't descend with his true body, just his incarnation has a fighting power that surpasses that of a great medium's. Even a projection can rival a great medium's. It is said that although some of the top evil gods can't rival the Master of Chaos, the Master of Gods, and the Master of Time, they can still keep their lives in front of these three greatest existences. Incarnation, projection, this saying came from the Master of Gods. Projections are roughly equivalent to 1/10,000th of the true bodies of the Master of God's subordinates. A true god can project dozens of projections with just a thought. 1/10,000th of the power can rival a great medium's. Sing Hui's heart trembled. From the looks of it, the gap between the third stage of the chaotic realm and the fourth stage of the chaotic realm was so huge that it couldn't be calculated. The evil gods belonged to the great beings that were defeated and banished by the Master of Chaos, the Master of Gods, and the Master of Time. However, although they were banished, they obviously weren't willing to lose the benefits of our boundless galaxy. Hence, they often looked for opportunities to descend many projections and walk the world, bewitching cultivators one after another. They wanted them to work for them and collect items to carry the way. As a reward, they would often give some help within their power. As Caixia King spoke, she carefully glanced at Xing Hui. I have a method to worship the evil gods. If Mr. Yuqing needs it, I can give this method to you. As long as you can give enough items to carry the way when you worship the evil gods, you can ask the evil gods to help you and bring you to the great world you want to go to. Worship the evil gods. Xing Hui looked at Caixia King in front of him and thought of the Master of Chaos action of banishing the evil gods. He immediately sneered and said, if this kind of thing is discovered, I'm afraid the consequences will be very serious. Caixia King looked at Xing Hui with some fear and said, it will indeed cost a lot, but if Mr. Yuqing wants to return to the true Sun Great World as soon as possible, I can only think of these three ways. Xing Hui was silent. He could see that Caixia King was not lying. After all, he just wanted to leave this world, which was a good thing for Caixia King and others. She couldn't wait to be happy. How could she joke and deceive herself with her own life? After being silent for a while, Xing Hui finally said, I remember that I have heard from someone that the Kun Dragon Great World is a world on the recruitment list. Often when a war breaks out, the Master of Kun Ruins will bring the top power of the Kun Dragon Great World to the front line to help. Caixia King couldn't keep up with Xing Hui's jumping thinking. After a while, she hurriedly explained, Mr. is right. Our Kun Dragon Great World is indeed a recruitment world. His Majesty, the Master of Kun Ruins, is a subordinate of the Master of Giant Dragon City at the front line of the war. It was because he made a great contribution under the Master of Giant Dragon City that he was rewarded. That was how he finally cultivated the mixed Yuan sacred body and advanced to the second level of the chaotic realm. Our Kun Dragon Great World's word, Long, was actually given by His Majesty out of gratitude to the Master of Giant Dragon City. Does the Kun Dragon Great World have a teleportation formation that leads directly to the battlefields of the three major star areas? Xing Hui asked. Since he couldn't go to the Earth world from the true Sun Great World, he could only make his move on the battlefields of the three major star areas. If he could go to the battlefields of the three peak creatures and kill true God Axon, the crisis that the Earth civilization was facing would also be resolved. Yes. Yes. Even though our Kun Dragon Empire is in seclusion, if any cultivator wishes to go to the battlefields, even His Majesty the Emperor doesn't have the authority to stop them. Our Kun Dragon Empire has a teleportation formation that can directly send us to the military stronghold of the Bloodshed World. In the Bloodshed World, cultivators can choose which war zone they wish to go to and head to the battlefields. Caixia King hurriedly said. Oh. Xing Hui's eyes brightened slightly. What are the requirements for opening the teleportation formation to the Bloodshed World? Other than void crystals, there are no other requirements. After all, this is a matter of our Kun Dragon Great World wanting to go to the front lines to serve the Great Master of Primal Chaos. To the entire Kun Dragon Great World, it is a matter of benefit and no harm. Those in authority would naturally support it. Sometimes, They would even promote and encourage the experts of our Kun Dragon Great World to enter the battlefields. Saixia King said before hurriedly adding, the teleportation formation is within the Imperial City. Mr. Yuqing only needs to prepare 400 void crystals and you can head there directly. 400, Xing Hui's gaze landed on Saixia King. Even though he didn't say anything, the meaning contained within his gaze was extremely obvious. Chapter 824. Saixia King also instantly understood Xing Hui's meaning. Ignoring the pain in her heart, she hurriedly transferred 500 void crystals from her personal space. At the same time, she said with a bitter smile, Mr. Yuqing, I originally had thousands of void crystals in my small world, but with the collapse of the world, most of the void crystals have been lost. Now, I can only gather these few void crystals. Xing Hui glanced at the void crystals and took them. 500 it is. Now, take your World Rainbow Bridge. After erasing your imprint, you can go. World Rainbow Bridge. Saixia King felt even more bitter. However, when she was captured alive, she knew that this supreme artifact would most likely be lost. After all, as a supreme artifact that could open a passage between two worlds, its effect could not be underestimated. Now, sacrificing a supreme artifact to save her life was already the best result. Mr. Yuqing. This is the World Rainbow Bridge. Saixia King handed over the World Rainbow Bridge and also a jade talisman, which recorded the method to use the World Rainbow Bridge. Xing Hui took the World Rainbow Bridge. This supreme artifact was, in fact, just like its name, a rainbow light. As energy was poured into this rainbow light, it would continue to expand until it was 10,000 meters long. Then, it would be able to break through space and connect two worlds like a bridge. After confirming that there was no mistake, Xing Hui put the World Rainbow Bridge into his personal space, and then said, You can go. Thank you, Mr. Yuqing. Saixia King said, not daring to have too much reluctance. She quickly left the endless void and fell straight toward the Kunlong world. After Saixia King left, Xing Hui did not dare to waste time. He rushed toward the Imperial City at the fastest speed. Saixia King had probably already calculated the next place he wanted to go. In order to avoid being blocked by Radiant King, Purple Jade King, and others in advance, he had better leave as soon as possible. As for Princess Longyu, he had already seen that with the change of her status, this princess had already produced thoughts and desires in her heart that she should not have. Once a person's desires were aroused, it was very difficult to restrain them. Next, her desires would definitely become stronger and stronger until she was swallowed by her desires, or endlessly produced more and more desires. However, no matter what Princess Longyu's next plan was, she was too lazy to get involved. After all, if it were not for the fact that Qing Su had taken a fancy to her fortune and bought her from Dao Seeker, she would have ended up as someone else's plaything in the end. Her fate would have been extremely miserable. It was exactly because of Qing Su that she had saved her life and changed her fate. As a result, everything that Qing Su had done to her before, including cheating her of her feelings, was nothing. Even if she really had been cheated of her feelings, it would just be sadness. As someone from Earth, he had witnessed countless incidents of men and women breaking up and getting back together. Compared to that miserable fate, this was without a doubt much better. In the end, Princess Longyu's heart had already given birth to thoughts that she should not have. This made Xing Hui even more unwilling to get involved with her. Now, he left without any hesitation. Swish! After a series of shuttles, Xing Hui quickly arrived outside the Kun Dragon Empire's Imperial City. He then avoided the Void Fortress outside the Imperial City and entered the Kun Dragon Empire's Imperial City. At this moment, the Kun Dragon Empire's Imperial City was still enveloped by the aura of the Godly Might King and a few other experts. Fortunately, they were all in the direction of the Imperial Treasury, which was quite a distance away from the teleportation array Xing Hui wanted to go to. Teleportation array. Xing Hui's gaze landed on a large-scale array near the outskirts of the city. This teleportation array was obviously a public teleportation array that everyone could use. Not only did it require the expenditure of basic spatial crystals, but the Kun Dragon Empire also had to send people to maintain it at all times to ensure that it operated normally. However, due to the dangers at the border, even peak experts at the World Actualization Realm couldn't guarantee their safety if they went there. Thus, the number of cultivators from the Kun Dragon Empire who went there was not many. Even if there were people who went, most of them were cultivators at the Divine True Body Realm or above. As for those below the Divine True Body Realm, they could only follow the lead of experts at the World Actualization Realm and board top-class warships or battle fortresses. Xing Hui immediately landed on the teleportation array and placed spatial crystals into it at an unbelievable speed, immediately activating the teleportation array. Almost at the same time, the godly Might King, whose world energy enveloped the imperial city, sensed something and immediately projected a figure out. The godly Might King stared at Xing Hui, who was standing in the teleportation array, his eyes flashing with anger and bewilderment. Qing Su did not seem worried at all. Instead, he chuckled and said, "This is the teleportation array to the bloodshed world. The Kun Dragon Empire should have laws that forbid anyone from obstructing the actions of those who wish to step onto the battlefield and serve the great master of primal chaos. Why, godly Might King, do you want to try and stop me?" The godly Might King's expression was gloomy. He looked at Xing Hui with an icy gaze. After a while, he said, "What method did you use to prevent me from sensing the primal chaos temple? Why don't you take a guess?" Xing Hui said indifferently. He knew that the Lord of Kun Ruins was only at the 44th level of Primal Chaos, which was similar to the Primal Chaos Holy Man, the Reverend Zhu Zhao, the Tai Yi Monarch, and the others. However, the Lord of Kun Ruins was very knowledgeable and had seen many children of Primal Chaos above the 44th level, and even those above the 50th level, but his knowledge was limited to those below the 75th level. If someone were to say that they could determine the primal chaos characteristic of the freezing technique, Xing Hui would be the first to not believe it. The godly Might King suppressed his anger. "You better pray that you don't meet me again. Otherwise, the next time we meet, it will be the day of your death. I hope that the next time we meet, you still have the courage to attack me." Xing Hui replied indifferently, his gaze landing on the teleportation array. At this moment, the teleportation array had been activated and started to operate. Waves of space waves spread from the teleportation array, attracting the attention of countless people. Their gazes towards Qing Su were filled with pity, envy, and admiration. There were even quite a few people who were filled with admiration. After all, the dangers of the border battlefield were far beyond everyone's imagination. Those who had the courage to participate in the war at the border and expand the territory of the great Lord of Chaos were worthy of respect. Of course, respect was one thing, but it was another if they were asked to do it themselves. This was also why the Lord of Kun Ruins, as a dominator, had less than 10 supreme being giants serving him. Ultimately, it was because it was too dangerous to participate in the war at the border. Following a war maniac like the Lord of Kun Ruins, who knew when they would lose their lives in the extremely dangerous border battlefield. Buzz buzz. As the spatial energy of the World Teleportation Formation continued to accumulate, it finally erupted when it reached a certain level. As streams of spatial torrents soared into the sky, his figure disappeared along with the spatial energy. "I don't care about the Kun Dragon Great World," Qing Su mumbled to himself as he allowed the teleportation formation to take him through red shift and blue shift, constantly shifting between red and blue shift. After an unknown period of time, the surroundings suddenly shook, and the blurry void gradually became clear. When he could see the surroundings clearly again, he was already on a huge square. This square was over 10,000 kilometers in size and was composed of countless small squares with diameters ranging from 10 kilometers to 100 kilometers. Almost every small square was engraved with a spatial teleportation array that spread out rings of spatial energy. The number of spatial teleportation arrays in the square was over 300. At this moment, he was in a teleportation array. A few hundred kilometers away from him, the teleportation array was still flashing with flowing light from time to time, sending one by one or groups of cultivators to this square. Whoosh! While Xing Hui was still looking around, a man in his 30s, standing on a semicircular sphere, wearing a black and white uniform, appeared directly beside Xing Hui. Judging from the aura on his body, he was at the Divine True Body stage. Well, let me take a look at the spatial record. An expert from the Kun Dragon Great World. Kun Dragon Great World? It has been a while since anyone has been teleported here. As the man spoke, he turned on an instrument and scanned Xing Hui, but the results of the scan made him slightly startled. The next moment, the man, who was originally somewhat careless, suddenly became respectful. He bowed slightly to Xing Hui and said in a slightly reserved manner, "Your Excellency, guide number 1109 is at your service." "How should I address you?" "Your cultivation is." "Dong Yang." "My cultivation is at the boundary stage with a thought." Xing Hui said. "Boundary stage with a thought." The cautiousness on the man's face lessened slightly when he heard Qing Su's words. However, he still remained respectful. "Sir, your method of concealing your presence is the most ingenious one I have seen in so many years. To be able to hide the power of the small world, which is the most difficult to hide one's presence, to such an extent is truly breathtaking." Saying this, he directly entered into work mode. "Your Excellency Dong Yang, have you come to the bloodshed world to exchange military contribution points, find friends, or rush to the battlefield? Do you need us to arrange it for you?" "Naturally, I am rushing to the battlefield," Xing Hui said. "Then, do you want to take a rest first and wait for your team to arrive, or do you want to go alone?" "I will go directly, but I need to choose the war zone I will be heading to." "All right." Saying this, the guide gestured with his hand, revealing a semicircular platform. "Please come up, I will bring you there." Xing Hui nodded and stood on this platform. The next moment, the surrounding environment rapidly changed. His figure seemed to be suddenly elongated, and by the time he reappeared, he was already far away from that huge plaza with a diameter of more than 10,000 kilometers. He appeared in a towering and flourishing palace. "This is world energy." Xing Hui's expression changed slightly. At this moment, he discovered that he was actually in a small world. The bloodshed world is one of the transfer points of a militarized world. It is just that the creator of this world is a great sacred ability user who transformed his body into a Tao, so you did not immediately sense it. Saying this, the guide sent out a mysterious light towards a round ball at the side of the palace. Immediately, a projection of a vast starry sky was projected at the center of the palace. Chapter 825. The vast starry sky that was projected was so huge that it almost filled the entire spacious palace. However, the starry sky was divided into 3 areas: gray, blue, and yellow. Among the 3 areas, the gray area occupied the largest area, almost exceeding the total area of the blue and yellow areas. This is, looking at the projection of the vast starry sky, Xing Hui was slightly stunned. This is the map of our endless void. As for the periphery of the map, it is filled with the aura of chaos. Ordinary people can't survive in those places at all, so it's meaningless to fight for it. The battlefield is carried out around this territory. The guide said with a little pride, "As you can see, this territory that occupies the largest area belongs to the Great Master of Chaos. The yellow area represents the Master of Time, and the blue area represents the Master of Gods." Xing Hui stared at the projection of the starry sky. The territory of the Master of Chaos was rectangular in shape, somewhat like an oval-shaped gourd. It almost divided the territories of the Master of Time and the Master of Gods from the center. However, at the mouth of this territory, there was still a small territory that was the border between the territories of the 3 great existences. The area that this territory occupied was less than 1/10 of the area of this endless starry sky. Xing Hui's mind was spinning. In the area where he was, the Master of Gods, the Master of Time, and the Master of Chaos were fighting for supremacy. The three great existences had their forces invested at the same time. Then, it could only be that border. Moreover, the Earth world was located in the territory of the Master of Time. True God Axon belonged to the Master of Gods. Then, in that area, the forces of the Master of Time and the Master of Gods should overlap more. For a moment, Tsing Hui's gaze could not help but fall on the triangular area. I want to go there and take a look. Oh, this star field. Back then, the great Master of Chaos had the intention to separate the Lord of Time and the Lord of Gods from the middle to prevent them from joining forces. Then, he would rely on his powerful body to defeat them one by one, driving them away one by one and monopolizing this endless void. However, in the later stages of the war, the Lord of Time and the Lord of Gods clearly understood the great Master of Chaos plan. The two of them slightly restrained themselves from fighting each other and instead wanted to cut the Master of Chaos territory in half before dividing it and surrounding it. Thus, the most intense area of the battle is no longer the Delta area, but these two areas. All the great masters have also joined the battle in these two areas. The total number of great masters left in the Delta area by the three forces is less than 1/10 of the total number of great masters we have in these two areas. There are fewer enemies, which is perfect for masters of the boundary realm with a thought realm to head there. As the guide spoke, this gourd-shaped area was continuously expanding in his hands. However, this seemingly small area was actually so huge that it was difficult to estimate its size. Tsing Hui took a closer look and realized that this area was filled with countless galaxies, nebulas, worlds, and planes. At a glance, there were definitely tens of thousands of them. Choose from the Lord of Time or the Lord of God's side. Defense, infiltration, or attack. The guide said. Tsing Hui looked at the battle area that was divided into thousands of parts and immediately realized that he had underestimated the situation. However, considering the size of Earth, he still said, I choose the Lord of Time's side. The plan is infiltration. Infiltration. Infiltration missions are extremely dangerous and often take thousands or even tens of thousands of years. However, once you achieve something, the military merit reward will be 10 times more than the attack and defense plans. However, with your Excellency Dong Yang's ability to create a world with a thought, you can totally choose to attack with the main force and destroy the enemy worlds one by one. You don't have to worry too much about the danger. No need. Tsing Hui said. If he followed the main force and attacked, he would naturally be successful. However, if things did not go well, his life and death would be out of his control. The Lord of Time created a total of 10 great Tao laws, but currently, 4 of them have been infiltrated and modified by us. Now, the remaining 6 great Tao laws are, according to their names, the strong nuclear force, the weak nuclear force, the electromagnetic force, the gravitational force, the logic force, and the causal force. However, other than these 6 great Tao laws, the remaining 4 great Tao laws still remain, but they are manifested in other ways. For example, they can use gravity to affect space, speed to affect time, and so on. When you enter FTL flight, you may feel that only an hour has passed, but a year has passed in the outside world. However, these remaining great Tao laws are not that important. As long as we pay attention to them, they will not affect us at all. When Tsing Hui heard the guide's words, he could not help but be secretly surprised. He did not expect that the Lord of Time's territory and the Lord of Chaos territory would have such a huge change. It was no wonder that the various methods he had mastered in the Lord of Chaos territory were useless in the Lord of Time's territory. This was because the great Tao laws in the two territories were completely different. If the great Tao laws are difficult to use in the Lord of Time's territory, then when we invade the Lord of Time's territory, won't our combat power be greatly reduced? Tsing Hui said with a frown. Of course. Fighting in your own territory is always more difficult than fighting in someone else's territory, the guide said with a smile. The guide smiled and said, this is also because you chose the infiltration plan. If it were a direct battle, there would usually be a great medium in charge. Every great medium is equivalent to the incarnation of the Great Tao, and the 12 Great Taos are all evolved from the Great Master of Chaos. Under the radiation of their power, although your combat power will be affected, it won't be too great. Because of this factor, the cultivators who chose the infiltration plan are either those who have already cultivated the origin sacred body and have endless energy in their bodies, or those who cultivate the body at the same time. After that, he glanced at Xing Hui. Your Excellency Dong Yang should be a cultivator who cultivates both the physique and the physique, right? Xing Hui nodded. It's precisely because the infiltration plan has strict requirements for the cultivator that the military merit reward is very high. At this point, the guide added, we have a lot of cultivation methods that originated from the Lord of Time. The basic things are free, but the more advanced ones need to be purchased. Give me a set of basic cultivation methods. Okay. After that, the guide directly handed a jade talisman to Xing Hui. The cultivators under the Lord of Time are basically divided into 4 major stages, corresponding to the immortal level, the saint level, and the chaos level. The 4 major stages are the star level, galaxy level, and universe level. However, we're used to using their energy level to determine their strength, which is the molecular level, the atomic level, the neutron level, and the grand unified level. Each energy level is divided into several smaller stages. Take the atomic level as an example. Nuclear energy can be divided into many smaller stages, such as nuclear fission, nuclear fusion, controllable nuclear fusion, and so on. However, their cultivation method is a group civilization. Perhaps they've reached these stages, but most of the time, they're very weak. If you're smart enough to bypass their defensive power and defeat them from the side, you don't have to worry about these details at all. Upon hearing this, Xing Hui nodded thoughtfully. In fact, to us, there's no need to care so much about the Lord of Time's set of complicated things. As long as we can continue to grow stronger, their so-called force field weapons, gravity weapons, and neutron star fortresses are not worth mentioning. When the time comes, we can just crush them. Overthinking will affect our cultivation instead. The guide said with a smile. Xing Hui glanced at him. In fact, this was in line with the cultivation standards of the divine beast bloodline. Regardless of so much, in terms of size and energy, if they could defeat them, they could just crush them. If not, they could just run as far as possible. So, Your Excellency Dong Yang, do you plan to rest for a while before heading to the battlefield, or do you want to choose the battle zone you want to go to now? Xing Hui's gaze focused on the battle zones for a moment and said, I see that these areas are completely different from our chaotic dominion. How do I distinguish the boundaries of the battle zones? Oh, that's simple. According to their calculations, the Lord of Time's territory is about 14 trillion light-years. Their world is not called a world, but a galaxy. Countless galaxies are connected together to form a group of galaxies, and each group of galaxies is a battle zone. At present, we have 3,600 battle zones in that triangular territory. The battle zones with higher combat intensity are coordinated by powerful beings, while the battle zones with lower combat intensity are coordinated by the dominators. The guide waved his hand, and the starry sky was divided into 3,600 regions. However, many of these regions overlapped. Xing Hui glanced at these regions and vaguely judged that there were about 100 million galaxies in this battle zone. In other words, each battle zone had tens of thousands of galaxies. I need to carefully understand the information of these battle zones before making the final choice. Please give me some time. Of course, this is your right. The guide nodded slightly. If you need any help, feel free to let me know. May I check the division of forces in these regions? I'm sorry, you don't have the authority to do so before you decide to go to this battle zone. This is mainly to prevent information from being leaked. Then, what about the star map? Of course, you'll need to check the star map of that battle zone. Xing Hui's gaze moved slightly in the direction of King of Pantheon's territory. I want the star maps of the 100 battle zones in this territory. Happy to help. The guide quickly gathered the star maps Xing Hui needed in detail. Sing Hui quickly compared these star maps with the starry sky he observed on Earth in his memory. Magellan Galaxies, Andromeda Galaxy, Sagittarius Galaxy, Canis Major Galaxy. Found it, it should be here. Half a month later, Sing Hui's gaze finally locked onto his destination. I want to go to the 823rd battle zone. Chapter 826. Alright, I am happy to serve you. Seeing that Sing Hui had made his decision, the guide quickly handed over a jade tile to him. This is your participation tile. Please carry it with you at all times. I will bring you to the starport teleportation. Saying that, he once again gestured with his hand, bringing Sing Hui onto that semicircular platform. Following that, they teleported through the void once more. Sing Hui knew that this was the authority granted to them by the world. It did not mean that they could easily teleport through space. It was just like how Sing Hui could appear in any corner of his personal space. Under the guide's guidance, Sing Hui soon appeared in an enormous palace. The end of the palace led directly to the outside of the world's barrier. At this point, the guide's mission had ended. Sing Hui followed the guide's instructions and quickly teleported through the palace, leaving the bloodshed world and arriving at the periphery of the bloodshed world. When he arrived at the periphery of the bloodshed world, the first thing that entered Sing Hui's eyes was a huge cannon barrel that was over 100,000 kilometers long and 20,000 kilometers in diameter. What was even more unbelievable was that there was a ring with a diameter of 60,000 kilometers around the cannon barrel. At this moment, there were many small circular worlds with a diameter of 10,000 kilometers being thrown into that huge cannon. Accompanied by a terrifying energy that could set off a violent flood in the void, the circular world that was thrown into the huge cannon was like a cannonball being shot out. It instantly crashed into the distorted void and disappeared from Sing Hui's sight. This, a newcomer, right? Just as Sing Hui was looking at that huge cannon with some shock, a voice suddenly laughed from beside him. Following that, a man with a sturdy figure walked over. His muscles seemed to be able to burst through his clothes. He extended his hand and said, I am Hei Air, from the Devil Moon Great World. My cultivation is at the One Thought Realm, and my physique is at the 17th rank. How may I address you, sir? Dong Yang, rank 18 physique, from the Kun Dragon Great World. Sing Hui did not reject the good intentions of the man before him. Rank 18 physique. What a fellow. How did you cultivate to that level? Hale looked at Sing Hui, his eyes filled with surprise. After a while, he realized that he had lost his composure and hurriedly said, I'm just a little surprised. You should know that before cultivating the sacred body of origin, basically no one would spend much effort on tempering their physique. After all, once the sacred body of origin is cultivated, the strength of the physique will naturally be comparable to that of a rank 20, making the previous tempering of the physique a waste of time. If it weren't for the fact that I like to do infiltration missions to obtain a large number of military merits from attack and defense missions, I wouldn't have spent so much effort on tempering my physique. By chance, I obtained a strand of Xianhuang Qi. Hearing this, Hale was stunned. Black and yellow Qi. You used it on yourself? Sing Hui knew why Hale was surprised. After all, the black and yellow Qi often meant that he could create a primal chaos realm divine beast. Such a supreme treasure was in no way inferior to the value of the originator to humans. At that time, my life was hanging by a thread, and I had no choice but to make a choice. After Sing Hui finished speaking, he added, I'm on the path of specializing in body tempering, unlike you guys who, in addition to the strength of your physique, have the cultivation of world creation with a thought. After his explanation, Hale nodded in understanding. That's right. In the face of life and death, any resource can be abandoned. Even so, he still felt a sense of regret for recklessly wasting God's gift. A cultivator who specializes in physique without the burden of a small world, the probability of being discovered can be said to be greatly reduced. You should have also taken on infiltration missions, right? That's right. Do you want to join our team? Our team takes on infiltration missions, and our captain is also a cultivator who has tempered his physique to rank 18, just like you. Sing Hui thought of his main purpose of going to the 823rd Theater of Operations, which was to kill True God Xstat and solve the crisis of the world of Earth. To prevent True God Xstat from having allies, it would be good to join a team and take care of each other. At that moment, he said, we might as well exchange contact numbers first. It won't be too late to talk about joining after we have some understanding of each other. That's good. Our Golden Rock team welcomes you to join at any time. Hale said as he took out his identity card. The identity card had a communication function, but this function would become extremely limited after reaching the territory of the Lord of Time. Looking at this speed, it'll be our turn in about 3 days. This thing, can it send us directly to the 823rd Theater of Operations? The distance between where we are and the 823rd Theater of Operations is not ordinary. A super spacetime cannon can at most send us 1 billion light-years away. At this point, Hale hurriedly said, the last few missions were all infiltration missions in the territory of the Lord of Time, so I'm used to the measurement unit there. 1 billion light-years is about the distance of an average of 1,000 great worlds. Although the Bloodshed world is relatively close to the Theater of Operations, it still requires thousands of super spacetime transmissions to send us there. If it's fast, it'll take 3 or 4 years. If it's slow, it'll take 10 or 20 years. 3 or 4 years, 10 years, Sing Hui frowned. Although this time was long, it was still within the acceptable range. By the way, Your Excellency Dong Yang, since there are no large number of teleportation arrays in the world of the Lord of Time, it's impossible to freely sense the power of the Great Tao to tier space and travel. I suggest you buy a spaceship that can only be used in the civilization of the Lord of Time. Otherwise, even if you have a rank 18 physique, it'll take a very long time to fly from one galaxy to another. Sing Hui nodded. Many thanks for the reminder. Over the next few days, Sing Hui continued to chat with Hale. Hale was also full of intentions to rope in Sing Hui, a cultivator with a rank 18 physique. Under such circumstances, Sing Hui had a good understanding of the territory occupied by the Lord of Time. 3 days passed quickly, and the group began to move through the super spacetime cannon. Although there was a problem of arriving sooner or later, Sing Hui could basically use super spacetime transmission once every 3 days. Although it wasn't slow, it was still 10 years later when he actually arrived at the 823rd Theater of Operations. We're finally here. As the group landed on a planet with a diameter of 180,000 kilometers, Qing Su let out a sigh of relief as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. I didn't expect the main base of the 823rd Theater of Operations to have advanced a little. I remember the location of the main base was in a middle-level world of Sharp Sword. Calculating the location. In the past 1,000 years, they should have advanced a distance of 6,000 light-years. It's really worthy of being a theater of operations presided over by a powerful expert of Colossal Dragon City. Hale sighed as he looked around. Powerful expert? The person presiding over our theater of operations is actually a powerful expert? Of course not. Our 3,600 battle zones are divided into several parts. Each part is overseen by a powerful individual. The Giant Dragon City Master is the overseer of this battle zone. As for the 823rd battle zone, it is overseen by a powerful being named Master Che Luo. Sing Hui nodded. As long as he was careful and didn't encounter any rank 19 creatures equivalent to the Chaos Realm in the theater of operations, there shouldn't be any danger. This feeling was similar to when he was only in the Divine True Body Realm on the battlefield of the True Martial Empire. Dong Yang, I'll take you to accept the mission first. Behind Hale, a heroic-looking woman with long silver hair said. This was Silver Feather, the vice-captain of the Golden Rock Squad. Although her strength was only at rank 16, she was very proficient in the cultivation system of the Lord of Time's territory. It was said that she had already begun to unify the 4 basic forces. Okay. Xing Hui followed Silver Feather to a pyramid-like building in the center of the planet. During the past 10 years, they had come into contact with each other slightly. Qing Su had already agreed to join their Golden Rock squad. Due to the advantage of his physique at the 18th level, he had become an important figure in the squad. Even a vice-captain like Yin Yu would indirectly express their goodwill, wanting to keep him in the squad. Under Silver Feather's lead, Xing Hui came to a hall inside the pyramid. There were a dozen screens around the hall, flashing messages. Silver Feather inserted her identity card into a connector and asked, "Dong Yang, are you really not coming with us this time? It's my first time on a mission. I'd better get used to it first so that I won't drag you guys down. It won't be too late to go with you guys after I've familiarized myself with the specific process of the mission. Okay then. If there's anything, contact us as soon as possible." As Silver Feather spoke, she brought up a lot of information. "These missions are more suitable for you. Take a look." Xing Hui looked at the flashing streams of data on the screen. He stared at the screen for more than 10 hours before he noticed the traces of True God Aixin. There were hundreds of millions of galaxies in a theater of operations. There might be hundreds of supremes and hundreds of thousands of people in the boundary realm with a thought. It wasn't easy to find a single person in there. This mission isn't bad. Xing Hui quickly brought up the mission. True God Aixin, who is lurking in the camp of the Master of Gods, has been behaving strangely. He has been hovering in a galaxy called the Four Spiral Galaxy for a long time. He seems to be up to something. Well, True God Aixin is under the command of the Master of Gods. He is also restricted in the territory of the Master of Time. Moreover, this mission is mainly to investigate. It doesn't ask you to kill True God Aixin. Silver Feather nodded and then asked directly, "When do you plan to depart?" "Soon. The sooner I complete the mission, the sooner I can rest assured." "Then wait a moment. I'll give you a spaceship. With this spaceship, you should be able to reach the destination of the mission in 10 years. Xing Hui was anxious to return to Earth. Although he knew that such a spaceship that could travel millions of light years in 10 years would be expensive, he didn't refuse. "Thank you very much. I'll return the favor after I complete the mission." "Ha, then we'll be waiting for you," Silver Feather said with a smile. Next, after Silver Feather assisted Xing Hui in accepting the mission, she handed over the spaceship, which she called the Lucky Star, to Xing Hui. After receiving the spaceship, Xing Hui, who was eager to return home, didn't waste any more time on this planet. He immediately started the spaceship and returned to Earth. Chapter 827. The starry sky was distorted. This spaceship created by the system of the Master of Time used a rule that Xing Hui could not understand to fly through the starry sky. Xing Hui speculated that the power system of this spaceship should have been created by an existence that had mastered the four fundamental forces. When it flew, it was mainly driven by gravity. It was like a boat that relied on manpower to sail on the surface of a lake. It was neither fast nor slow. However, if the center of the lake was suddenly hollowed out, the originally calm water around it would speed up and fill the hollowed-out area, causing the speed of the boat to increase greatly. In addition to this method of flight, Xing Hui heard from Silver Feather that the Master of Time had divided the entire world into 3 dimensions, low-dimensional, high-dimensional, and extra-dimensional. Ordinary people usually lived in the low-dimensional world, while the high-dimensional world had the additional attribute of space. When viewed from the high-dimensional world to the low-dimensional world, all life and matter were 3-dimensional existences. With the help of the high-dimensional coverage, the cultivators of the Master of Time system could even cross from one galaxy to another in a single step. If Xing Hui wanted to study it, he could slowly understand the cultivation rules of the Master of Time system. However, he was now anxious to return home. Moreover, he already had the cultivation method of the Master of Chaos, so he could not divert his attention to understand the various mysteries of the cultivation system of the Master of Time system. As he thought about this, Xing Hui's gaze once again focused on the fortune jade in his spiritual world. It had been 20 years. Even though he guessed that it would not be easy to deduce a great Tao that completely belonged to him and was completely compatible with him because the Fortune Divine Jade was incomplete, he had never imagined that there would be no movement from the Fortune Divine Jade even after 20 years had passed. This made him speechless. A great Tao that belongs to me. The first stage of the chaotic realm is to be supported by the power of the great Tao. This is similar to how the insightful void and vacuum-shattering realm can sense the law of space and borrow the power of the law of space. The second stage is to cultivate the origin sacred body. The energy in the body builds a cycle and grows endlessly. To put it simply, the small world forms a complete ecosystem. Under the condition that it is not destroyed by external forces, the small world can exist forever and develop into an immortal civilization. At the third stage, he had too little information about the great Tao of incarnation. However, he had a vague feeling, the incarnation great path seemed to be somewhat similar to what he was doing now with the help of the creation divine jade to derive a great path that was completely compatible with his own. In other words, if he could really derive a great path that completely belonged to him, in terms of realm, he should be able to reach a level that was not inferior to that of a great divine medium. As for the power level, it would depend on the characteristics and inclination of the great Tao he derived. After pondering for a moment, Xing Hui raised his head. The distorted space gradually calmed down. Xing Hui glanced at the spaceship that was taken over by the artificial intelligence. They had arrived at the designated location. When the spaceship came to a complete stop, Xing Hui went to the control panel of the spaceship. Through the spaceship, he looked outside. What appeared in front of him was a space that he couldn't be more familiar with. He. Xing Hui muttered to himself. Even if his current cultivation had reached the realm of creating a world with a single thought, his physique had reached level 18, and he could transform into a 10,000-meter-tall giant after manifesting his divine true body. He still felt small in front of this vast and majestic galaxy. I've finally arrived. However, I can't go to Earth right away to avoid arousing suspicion. I'll deal with True God Ikisi first. As long as True God Ikisi's infiltration of the galaxy collapses, the crisis that Earth's civilization is facing will naturally be resolved. Xing Hui's gaze was somewhat fascinated as he observed the galaxy for a moment. Soon, he shifted his attention and focused on business. He began to search for the hiding place of True God Ikisi. A true god would carry a divine kingdom with him. The area of the divine kingdom was at least tens of thousands of kilometers, which was equivalent to a star in the vast starry sky. Not to mention a star with a diameter of tens of thousands of kilometers, even a meteorite with a diameter of only 10 kilometers could carry a gravitational force. Through the observation of gravitational fluctuations, it was almost difficult to hide the position of all the stars, especially for a strange existence like true God Aixin who had a god's kingdom. In the vast Milky Way, it would only take some time to find it. The star map of the spaceship called Lucky Star that Silver Feather gave me is not particularly detailed. At least in the Milky Way, there are only 3 civilizations marked by her. However, this is also reasonable. Silver Feather is an existence that can enter the higher dimensional space for a short period of time. Through the higher dimensional space, a distance of tens or hundreds of light years is nothing to her. She has the ability to jump from the higher dimensional space, and her level 16 physique allows her to shatter stars with one punch. With these 2 abilities stacked together, almost all the civilizations that are not in contact with the higher dimensional space have no power to fight back in front of her. Xing Hui thought to himself. A great life that had the power to shatter stars with one punch and could easily jump from one star to another. Even those civilizations with territories that were tens of thousands of light years long and had thousands or even tens of thousands of administrative planets would find it difficult to resist. From the perspective of Earth's civilization, the vastness of the Milky Way is almost limitless. Even with my current cultivation, the vastness of the Milky Way is still difficult to estimate. It is not strange to fly from one galaxy to another for thousands or even tens of thousands of years without a spaceship. In such a vast galaxy, there are definitely tens of thousands of civilizations. The 3 civilizations marked by silver feather are estimated to be the top existences in the Milky Way. True God Ikisi is infiltrating this area, trying to turn this galaxy into the territory of the Master of Gods. Then, these 3 top civilizations are inevitable. In other words, if I find these 3 civilizations, I will be able to find true God Ikisi. Tsing Hui's gaze lingered on the 3 civilizations for a moment, and he quickly chose the Fika civilization, which was the closest to him. It had to be said that the spaceship that Silver Feather gave to Tsing Hui had extraordinary performance. In terms of flying speed, when the engine was fully activated and propelled by the cosmic tide, its flying speed could reach 100,000 times the speed of light. Moreover, its material was also extremely good, and its sturdiness was not inferior to a 16th-level magic weapon. In other words, this spaceship was at least comparable to a 17th-level magic weapon. Silver Feather had given him such a spaceship, so it was obvious that he owed him a great favor. Tsing Hui suppressed the thought of quickly returning to Earth and flew toward the 3rd cantilever of the Milky Way, which was close to the silver core. In less than a year, he had already entered a bustling and bright star sector. There were more than 1 million stars in this star sector, and 1/10 of these stars were encircled by star rings. The star rings absorbed the endless heat of the stars and converted it into energy for the civilization's daily consumption. In addition to those stars in their prime, Tsing Hui also observed many white dwarfs and neutron stars through the changes in gravitational force. As for all kinds of electromagnetic information, there were too many to count. Even if Tsing Hui looked with his eyes, he could clearly see the electromagnetic force that was mixed with all kinds of information. While Tsing Hui was sizing up this star sector, a starry sky broadcast was suddenly received by him and his spaceship. Immediately after, in a star sector less than 10 light-years away from him, waves of gravitational force were transmitted, and the gravitational force with the strongest gravitational force was like a black hole. However, through the information obtained from the spaceship's detection equipment, Tsing Hui understood that the so-called black hole was not a real black hole. It was just a neutron star that had been transformed into a battle fortress. To be able to turn a seed star into a weapon, this civilization has already reached the level where it can threaten a divine powerhouse. That neutron star. Any powerhouse who has not cultivated the divine true body will not be able to escape from it and will be imprisoned until death. Even a divine true body powerhouse will be in trouble if they are targeted by the neutron star battle fortress. This is a powerful civilization that requires a level 17 physique to be comparable to a transversal powerhouse. No wonder Silver Feather marked it out. Tsing Hui's gaze paused for a moment on the moving neutron star. Soon, he started the spaceship again and flew straight into the Fika civilization. The cultivation system of the Lord of Time was different from that of the Lord of Chaos. In the cultivation system of the Lord of Chaos, a divine true body powerhouse or a transversal powerhouse could be counted as a combat unit. However, in the cultivation system of the Lord of Time, only a civilization could be called a combat unit. This civilization often included all the spaceships and battleships of the civilization. Therefore, although the Fika civilization in front of him could even threaten a transversal powerhouse if they mobilized all their military forces and were fully prepared, and even had a chance to kill a transversal powerhouse, their civilization level was only level 16. As long as a transversal powerhouse was not stupid enough to confront this civilization head-on, and spend enough time to make this civilization collapse without taking any risks. Tsing Hui took the level 17 spaceship that was beyond the technological level of the Fika civilization and quickly bypassed the frontline defense circle of the Fika civilization. He then hid the lucky star and used the yin-yang reversal immortal technique. The endless starry sky was different from the Earth civilization in an environment where magic was forbidden. Before the energy in Tsing Hui's body completely dissipated, it was not difficult for him to use some immortal techniques. Yin and Yang were the general name of all the energy in the world. According to the Tao principles, the Tao gave birth to 1, 1 gave birth to 2, 2 gave birth to 3, and 3 gave birth to all things. The so-called 2 were the Yin and Yang. Under such circumstances, the yin-yang reversal immortal technique easily removed all traces left by the lucky star. Coupled with the fact that the Lucky Star's technological level was higher than that of the Fika civilization, it was completely safe to hide. After leaving the spaceship, Xing Hui quickly flew toward the star under his feet. However, after flying for a while, he felt that his speed was slowing down. Fortunately, during the 10 years of flying to the Milky Way, he carefully learned about the application of the 4 fundamental forces. With the help of the omnipresent gravitational waves in the universe, he pushed himself and quickly arrived at the periphery of this star. Looks like I have to learn about the application of higher dimensions like Silver Plume. The application of higher dimensions is a technology that only level 19 civilizations can master. However, if we only use it to perform dimensional jumps, it's not too difficult to focus on one direction, Xing Hui thought to himself. His powerful divine thoughts swept out and quickly covered the entire star with his spiritual power. Not long after, an extremely influential religion on this star caught his attention. Found it. Chapter 828. They actually used the method of internal infiltration. Qing Su stood before a building that resembled a church. He looked at the building that was as tall as a 10-story building as he muttered to himself. At this time, his appearance had changed slightly compared to his human form. His height had increased to about 3 meters, his whole body was covered with blue skin, and there were 2 snail-like antennae on his head. This was the main form of the creatures of the Fika civilization. With the power of true God Aixin, it is not difficult to take down the Fika civilization by force. Now, they are using the method of internal infiltration to occupy the Fika civilization. Either there may be a more advanced technological civilization behind the Fika civilization, so they dare not attack directly, or true God Aixin is not in this galaxy, and the one in charge of the Fika civilization is only a divine general, which is a demigod. Xing Hui stood outside the church-like building and looked at the people coming and going in and out of the building, but his mind was carefully sensing the conversations of the people inside. Not long after, he learned about the forces that these people belonged to from the bishop in charge of the church. Divine General Saya, Demigod Farah. Xing Hui heard and associated it with the information he got from the black-robed wizard on Earth. He immediately understood that he had found the right place. The power of true God Aixin was at the top of the pyramid, and he had dozens of demigods with extremely high status under him. After the demigods were the divine generals who commanded many armies. Each divine general often had the cultivation of the divine true body, but in the camp of the Master of Gods, they were called sanctuary masters. Below the divine general were the captains, squadron captains, and small captains, corresponding to the realms of legendary master, sanctuary master, and domain master respectively. Their stages, starting from true God Aixin, could be included from level 18 to level 13. For example, the archbishop in charge of this galaxy was Divine General Saya, whose combat power was equivalent to level 16. The one in charge of the strategy of the entire Fika civilization was the famous top powerhouse under true God Aixin, the level 17 demigod Farah. It's more or less clear now. Then, I'll follow the clues and find the so-called Divine General Saya directly through the bishop of the capital city. Then, I'll drag out the demigod Farah and force the demigod Farah to reveal the whereabouts of true God Ikus. As long as I can get rid of true God Ikus, Divine General Karel, who is in charge of the solar system, is not worth mentioning. Thinking of this, Xing Hui did not deceive anyone in the Fika civilization, which was only a rank 16 civilization. He directly stepped into the church and walked toward the bishop, who happened to be blessing a certain important person. As he walked towards the bishop and the VIP, a dozen guards who were in charge of protecting the VIP came up to him and shouted, "Can't you see that Senator Jason is receiving Bishop Wellman's blessing? Stand down." Xing Hui thought for a moment and thought of some of the basic information he had obtained from the Lord of Time's camp. He quickly made up an identity for himself. Without looking at the guards, he stared at Bishop Wellman and said in a deep voice, "I am a member of the Special Operations Team under the Supreme Commander of the C-823 Theater of Operations. You can call me number 16. I suspect that this church is related to the external invasion forces. Now, I need you to assist me in the investigation. A member of the Special Operations Team under the Supreme Commander of the C-823 Theater of Operations, Wellman's expression changed, but he quickly calmed down and said calmly, "Sir, I don't know what you are talking about. Please don't disturb me while I bless Senator Jason." After saying that, he looked at Jason, who was being blessed by him, and said, "Mr. Councilman, I'm sure you don't want your blessing ceremony to be interrupted by an inexplicable outsider." Of course. Jason, who had a pious look on his face, suddenly became fierce. "You guys, what are you waiting for? Throw him out. If he dares to be stubborn again, the Public Security Department of the district, arrest him and say that I said so." "Yes, sir." A few of the guards answered and were about to take action. However, before they could do anything, a wave of mental strength dissipated. The few guards who were about to charge at him were stunned on the spot. In the next second, they fell to the ground at the same time and lost all signs of life. This scene fell into the eyes of the ferocious-looking Jason. His pupils suddenly shrank, and he immediately became frightened. "You? Who are you?" "I am a member of the city council, At your level, you have no right to know who I am. Report what I just said to the president of your country. He will make the right choice." After Tsing Hui finished speaking, he ignored Jason and went straight for Wellman. "I need you to cooperate with my investigation." A trace of anger flashed in Wellman's eyes. However, just as he was about to act, he seemed to have thought of something and forcibly suppressed his thoughts. He said in a deep voice, "All right, I will follow you to investigate." Then, he said to Jason, "Senator Jason, I believe that the FICA Empire will never allow such a person who is above the law to do as he pleases, right?" Although Jason was quite loyal to the church, he was not at the level of a deep believer. In front of Tsing Hui, whose life was in danger, he decided to prioritize his own safety. "I will report this to the president. I believe the president will give the church a reasonable explanation." "I hope so." Wellman looked at Jason with some displeasure and finally followed Tsing Hui out of the church. Almost as soon as Wellman was taken away, a message was quickly sent out from the small church and quickly spread throughout the galaxy. In less than half an hour, the relevant information fell into the hands of Divine General Saya, who was in charge of the capital galaxy. Claiming to be a member of the Special Operations Team under the orders of the C-823 Theater Commander. According to Wellman's data, his mental strength is at level 14. However, we can't rule out the possibility that he is hiding his strength, which is why he didn't resist immediately. However, Wellman should have been deceived by someone. The C-823 Theater Commander is a veritable high-dimensional creature. Even if he manifests in the material world, he is still a neutron star with a diameter of 100 kilometers. The core driving force of his core is a medium-sized black hole. Even if he does not take the initiative to attack, the gravitational waves emitted by him alone are enough to devour stars and cause gravitational disturbances within a radius of dozens of light-years. If such a person really wanted to send out a team, they would at least be at level 16 or even 17. How can the energy waves emitted be only at level 14? Divine General, in fact, we did receive a message not long ago. The Fika civilization detected an abnormal energy wave, as if some kind of aircraft was rapidly approaching with the help of the cosmic tide. However, when the Fika civilization began to be on alert, the wave disappeared. Judging from the technological level of the aircraft, it was at least at level 17. Look, the enemy who suddenly appeared and captured Bishop Wellman alive, could it be the mysterious existence that came on the level 17 aircraft? A middle-aged man in armor who looked like a medieval knight asked in a deep voice. In the cultivation system of the Lord of Gods, other than the so-called spells and divine arts, there were also physical cultivators. The middle-aged man before him was clearly an expert of the physical cultivation lineage. The toughness of his physique had already reached level 15, so it was easy for him to traverse the starry skies with his physical body. If he were to focus on studying the cultivation system of the Lord of Time, he could even use the laws created by the Lord of Time to fly at faster than light speed. Is there such a thing? Divine General Saya's face darkened slightly. Do you think this is a trap set by the Lord of Time? He openly captured Bishop Wellman with the purpose of luring us to rescue him so that he can catch us all in one fell swoop. Even without the use of a think tank, just by relying on my subordinates, the probability of this is more than 80%. Divine General Saya fell into deep thought after hearing this. After a while, he said, currently, we have control over 60% of the civilizations above level 13 in the entire Milky Way. Most importantly, among the 3 level 16 civilizations with interstellar travel capabilities, only the Fika civilization is not completely under our control. However, although the Fika civilization is not completely under our control, more than 30% of the high-ranking officials in the entire civilization have become believers of our church, and the other 30% are still wavering. At this time, as long as we act in time and show enough miracles, there is a high possibility that the Fika civilization will completely fall to our side. By then, we will have nailed a nail in the 823rd war zone. We can build stargates as we wish. As long as we can hold on for 300 years and complete the construction of the stargate, we will have a firm foothold in this star sector. Then, sir, you mean? Don't act rashly. I need to ask for instructions from Commander Farah. Divine General Saya walked into the room as he spoke, as if to contact Farah, who was a demigod. After a full hour, Saya reappeared. A civilization under the command of the Time Lord is equivalent to a combat unit. That battleship may have reached level 17, but according to Commander Farah's information, they did not find any traces of the fleet. In other words, we only need to deal with a small portion of this suspected level 17 civilization. As long as we are careful, we will definitely be able to capture them alive. After capturing them, we can analyze the level 17 technology in their spaceship, which will be of great help to us in understanding the direction of the civilizations in this war zone. The armored man immediately said solemnly, "Sir, please give the order." "All right, gather the knights and mages. I will personally lead the team and capture this member of the Special Operations team who is on a secret mission. If we succeed, we will be able to gain tens or hundreds of years of peaceful infiltration time. If we fail, then, we will forcefully occupy the Fika civilization and order all the civilizations under our control to send over resources, build stargates, and welcome the arrival of the other true gods and demigods under the command of the Overgod." Saya waved his hand fiercely, his expression was slightly excited. After infiltrating this galaxy for almost 1,000 years, it was finally time for the final harvest. Chapter 829. Where are you taking me? Didn't you say that you need me to cooperate with your investigation? If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm still waiting to prove my innocence before returning to the church. In the wilderness less than 100 kilometers away from capital city, Wellman looked a little nervous as he spoke. Sing Hui glanced at Wellman and smiled. "I know you still want to pretend to be an ordinary person, but it's meaningless. I can clearly feel the weak but still magical power in your body." "Magical power? What are you talking about?" "Wait patiently. I caught you so that others could save you so that more people would be trapped. That's why I didn't intercept your message. It depends on how many people could the immortal generals in your region dispatch to save you." Zhang Tai said as he looked at Zhang Tai with a solemn look on his face, "Don't worry. I caught you so that others could save you," Sing Hui said calmly. Wellman heard this and understood that the other party had obviously identified his identity. The reason he was brought here was to surround him and attack his reinforcements. At that moment, his expression darkened. "Who are you?" After that, he looked around and asked, "Where's your fleet?" "This is the interior of a planet, and it's the capital planet of the Fika civilization." "Do you plan to destroy the entire planet because of the upcoming battle? By then, even if you complete the mission, you'll probably be severely punished." "You don't have to worry about that. To avoid boredom, I'll ask you some basic questions. All of you are warriors under the command of true God Aixen, right? So, tell me first, where is true God Aixin? Hearing Tsing Hui mention true God Aixin's name, Wellman immediately understood that the person in front of him was definitely not a member of the Fika civilization. Maybe, he was really a special operation team sent by the commander of the C-823 theater. The members of the special operations team were at least from level 17 civilizations, right? Some of the best were probably from a level 18 civilization. If he was from a level 17 civilization, it would be fine. With Divine General Saya around, an individual from a level 17 civilization was not worth mentioning. However, if he was from a level 18 civilization, then the problem was serious. Compared to a level 17 civilization, a level 18 civilization was much stronger. It would not be an exaggeration to say that they had a 100-fold or 100-fold advantage. It should be noted that the fleets of any civilization would have the existence of a flagship. The total combat power of a flagship was equivalent to 1/6 or even 1/5 of a civilization's military strength. These flagships often represented the direction of the civilization's evolution. In other words, they were equivalent to the experimental models of the fighter jets. They were the pinnacle fighter jets created by a country with all its might to climb the technological tree of civilization. If a country had an average of 10 main battle fleets, a single flagship would be equivalent to 2% of the entire civilization. Needless to say, those who could catch the eye of the warzone commander were definitely the best of the best in the civilization, which meant that they could pilot the flagship. In other words, if he really came from a level 18 civilization, it would be equivalent to having 2% of the power of a powerhouse who could achieve a world with a single thought. With this kind of power, suppressing a level 17 demigod was not an extravagant hope. How is that possible? All these years, our actions have been very secretive. Even if you suspect something, you can't directly send such a powerful member to investigate. At most, you can send an emissary from a level 17 civilization, and then get the local Fika civilization and the other 3 level 16 civilizations to cooperate. These civilizations have already been infiltrated by us. Using this method, we have already fooled 2 waves of emissaries. This time, why would the warzone commander directly give the order? Why would the great true God be targeted by the warzone commander? Wehrman's heart was filled with fear. The warzone commander was at least the head of a level 20 civilization, the emperor, or the president. He himself had the combat power of a level 19 creature. Being targeted by such a terrifying existence was equivalent to being targeted by a primal chaos realm expert. Especially, that primal chaos realm expert had at least a few dozen primal chaos realm experts under his command. As for existences who could achieve a world with a single thought, there were tens of thousands of them. Just thinking about it made one realize how terrifying the consequences would be. Tsing Hui was too lazy to explain further. His identity as a member of the special operations team was made up. The more he explained, the more loopholes there would be. Rather than that, he might as well try and see if he could use Wehrman to fish out Divine General Saya and Demigod Phil, who were behind them. If he could not fish them out, it would be fine. He would go through one galaxy after another, one civilization after another. He would eventually find the next bishop, and then he would just have to do the same thing. Unless they left the Milky Way galaxy. If they left the Milky Way galaxy, the crisis of Earth's civilization would naturally be resolved, and he would have achieved his goal of saving Earth. Since you have time, why don't you tell me how powerful the true God Aixin behind you is? Who knows, the true God Aixin's background might be powerful enough to scare me away. I won't be fooled. Don't even think about getting any information from me. Wehrman was emotional. His expression seemed to be filled with respect and reverence for the true God Aixin. Oh. As Tsing Hui spoke, his gaze fell on Wehrman. To be exact, he was carefully sensing the spiritual waves that were released when Wehrman's emotions changed. At the same time, he smiled and said, "Just now, you seem to want to send some information through your spiritual waves. Unfortunately, you won't be able to send a single message in front of me." Wehrman looked at Tsing Hui, and his expression changed slightly. The next moment, another spiritual wave spread out from his body. Alright, don't try to test me anymore. Do you really think that I won't destroy your spirit sea? Xing Hui said calmly. Then, a terrifyingly powerful spiritual pressure came crashing down. It completely suppressed Wehrman, whose life level was only at level 15. Even his spiritual waves were slightly stagnant under the impact of this power. However, Wehrman, who was suppressed by Xing Hui's spiritual waves, did not feel any fear. Instead, he seemed to have discovered something and let out a sigh of relief. He then looked at Xing Hui and sneered. I almost believed that you were a member of a special operation team sent by the commander of this war zone under the command of the Lord of Time. Although the cultivators under the command of the Lord of Time can only rely on machinery in terms of energy level, their cultivation and use of spiritual consciousness far surpasses the cultivators under us and the Lord of Chaos. The few messages I sent just now, if you were really from the Lord of Time's camp, not only would you be able to intercept my messages, you would also be able to modify them to make them more useful to you. Unfortunately, you didn't. Let me guess. During this period of time, the Lord of Chaos has been very active in this war zone. Could it be that the commander of this war zone has taken a fancy to this galaxy and sent you here to scout the way? Oh. Xing Hui looked at Wehrman and could not help but feel a little surprised. He did not expect Wehrman had actually managed to deduce his true camp through such a small mistake. Sure enough, every cultivation system had its own unique characteristics. No matter how well it was hidden, those who were observant would be able to identify it. This was especially true for someone like Xing Hui, who had just entered the three-way war zone and lacked experience. Looks like you're really from the Lord of Chaos camp. Hee hee, if that's the case, you're also an existence that cannot be exposed. If you want to take this galaxy from us, we'll have to see if you have the ability to do so. Qing Su glanced past Wellman. Just when he was about to say something, he seemed to sense something. He directly raised his head and gazed into the horizon. Since you've come, just come out. Are you trying to set up some formation or something to cut out the space I'm in? Whoosh! As soon as Xing Hui finished speaking, dozens of figures appeared at the same time. These figures were led by a man who was equivalent to a level 16 creature. He led a group of level 14 and level 15 creatures and quickly surrounded Xing Hui. Moreover, as they surrounded the area, the space within a few hundred kilometers gradually became blurry. The city that was originally 100 kilometers away suddenly quieted down and was replaced by a gray fog. Divine General Saya, this person isn't a member of the Special Operations team sent by the War Zone Commander. He's an infiltrator of the Lord of Chaos like us, Wehrman shouted, trying to warn him. However, before he could finish speaking, Xing Hui pressed down with his hand and a force as heavy as Mount Tai came crashing down. Before it even reached Wehrman, the flowing light on his body had already shattered. His defensive spells were all shattered into nothingness. Wehrman spat out a mouthful of blood with a look of horror on his face. After casually slapping the level 15 bishop, Xing Hui extended his hand again and attacked the level 14 and level 15 creatures behind Divine General Saya. He did not use any special techniques. The pure strength of his body alone was enough to crazily compress the space. In an instant, it broke the limit that the space could withstand, causing a pitch-black hole to form in the middle of everyone. More than 10 cultivators who bore the brunt of the attack were crushed into pieces by the power of the black hole. Even the cultivators who were nearby had spells all over their bodies. In the next second, their bodies were distorted as they were pulled by the black hole created by Xing Hui. In the end, they were crushed into powder. When the cultivators who were under the command of true god Aixen were killed, the fog that was used to isolate the area from the periphery dissipated. However, after the layer of fog dissipated, everyone was not exposed to the vision of the people from the Fika civilization. Instead, they were covered by another space. It was the fragment of the ancient divine world. All of this seemed slow, but it was actually very fast. Qing Su had basically finished by the time Saya and the others appeared. When Saya suddenly snapped out of his daze and retreated with a cry of, Oh no, Qing Su had already killed 90% of the people he had brought with him. Afterwards, he pressed his hand down towards Divine General Saya. Bang! 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 The energy from the collapse of spells kept exploding from Divine General Saya's body. It formed a terrifying impact that could be seen with the naked eye and spread in all directions. Divine General Saya looked as if he had been hit by a neutron star. His body was almost destroyed. He half knelt on the ground with blood all over his body. His eyes were filled with uncontrollable fear. Level 18. Level 18 creature, alright, don't move around. I can't guarantee that I won't accidentally press you to death. Now, in order to prevent us from having an even more intense conflict due to some misunderstanding, please cooperate and answer my questions. Chapter 830. We believe in the great true God Ikisi. We will never surrender to you savage beasts so easily. Divine General Saya was captured by Tsing Hui, but his eyes were filled with determination. Savage beast? Tsing Hui was slightly stunned. He was a little surprised by Divine General Saya's title. However, when he thought about the cultivation system of the Master of Chaos, the title was not undeserved. However, Tsing Hui's cultivation system was not exactly the same as the Master of Chaos cultivation system. That was why he was a little surprised by the title. It seems like you guys are really loyal to your true god. However, since you guys are so confident in your great true god Ikisi, why are you afraid that I'll find traces of your true god Ikisi? Or is it that your great true god Aiksen is just a weak coward? You're afraid that if I find him, I'll slaughter the powerful true god that you believe in and turn him into a dead soul under my sword? After Tsing Hui finished his sentence, Divine General Saya did not say anything. However, some of the rank 15 cultivators who were lucky enough to survive could not help but yell. Shut up! Don't insult the great true god Ikisi. The power of true god Ikisi is far beyond your imagination. One day, the great true god Ikisi will descend in his true form and purify all of you heretics who dare to offend the Church of True God. Looking at the cultivators who were filled with righteous indignation, Tsing Hui shifted his gaze to them. Since you guys keep saying that your great true god Ikisi will purify a heretic like me when he descends, then I'll give you guys a chance. I'll bring you guys to the kingdom of true god Ikisi and fight the powerful true god Ikisi in your hearts. By then, you can see if the invincible true god Ikisi in your hearts can really purify a heretic like me as you expect. All you have to do is to tell me the location of true god Ikisi's true form. Why? Do you dare to take a gamble? The great true god Ikisi is everywhere. When he wants to appear, he will naturally appear. Divine General Saya hurriedly shouted before the believers could react. Is that so? Since the true god of Aiksen is everywhere, then these believers are about to die, and some of them are even completely dead. Why haven't I seen the true god of Aiksen in your hearts appear? Or does true god Aiksen not dare to show himself in front of me? After Tsing Hui finished speaking, he looked at the furious cultivators and said again, don't you want to return to the kingdom of true god Aiksen after you die? Don't you want the true god Ikes to see your bravery and fearlessness? Then, tell me where real god Ikisi is, and I'll bring you to meet your true god. I'll let you show your true selves in front of your true god. Now, I just need you to tell me where real god Ikisi is. Heathen, since you are so stubborn, I will fulfill your wish. The holy kingdom of the great true god of Aiksen is currently a 15th level powerhouse who had blind faith and worship in true god Aiksen stood up and was about to speak. Divine General Saya, who understood the might of a level 18 life form, immediately shouted, shut up, you, bang. Divine General Saya was directly pressed down by Tsing Hui's empty hand. With a burst of power, his body was crushed into pieces. Continue. Tsing Hui said. The kingdom of true God Aiksen is currently preaching the doctrine of the divine church to its most loyal believers in the Jima civilization. Heathen, if you really have the guts to expose yourself in front of the great true God Aiksen, you will definitely be completely purified into cosmic dust by the powerful divine power of true God Aiksen. Not even your bones will be left. Very well, as a thank you, I'll let you witness the war with your own eyes. As Tsing Hui spoke, he clenched his empty hand. A terrifying power burst out from his simple action of clenching his fist. In the center of the surviving cultivators, it was as if there was a terrifying power that was stronger than a neutron star that was crazily pulling their bodies. They were all crushed into pieces on the spot. Only the person who told Tsing Hui the location of real God Aiksen survived. Let's go. I'll take you to meet your true God. After doing this, Tsing Hui quickly took the level 15 cultivator into the sky, broke through the atmosphere, and headed toward the spaceship that he had parked in outer space at the fastest speed. As he had completed his mission, he did not hide his tracks when he left. When he broke through the atmosphere of the planet, it immediately caused a violent response from the planet's defense system. All the military bases on the planet were alarmed at the same time. Countless detection devices locked onto Tsing Hui's figure. As long as the higher-ups gave the order, they would be able to deal a devastating blow to Tsing Hui who had broken through the atmosphere. However, Tsing Hui's previous bluff finally worked. Coupled with the fact that the level of technology contained in his battleship was obviously above that of the Fika civilization, the higher-ups of the Fika civilization did not give the order to attack. Instead, they sent a message to contact Tsing Hui. Their words were respectful and flattering. Tsing Hui did not respond much to the Fika civilization's message. After completing his mission, he directly started the spaceship and flew toward the Jima civilization. The Jima civilization was also one of the 3 level 16 civilizations in the Milky Way. It was not far from the Fika civilization, less than 10,000 light-years away. After all, although the Milky Way galaxy had a diameter of 100,000 light-years, the real habitable zone was actually only 13,000 to 35,000 light-years with the silver core as the center. If other star fields were too close to the silver core, it would be difficult for them to survive due to the various extreme celestial bodies. If they were too far away from the silver core, the environment would not be able to support the birth of life. Take the Earth civilization as an example. It was located 26,000 light-years away from the silver core. Relying on this spaceship that was obviously from a level 18 or even 19 civilization, with a maximum speed of 100,000 times the speed of light, Tsing Hui only took a month to appear outside the Jima civilization. The Jima civilization controlled an area of 100 light-years, but its influence and radiation reached more than 2,600 light-years. In this territory, it owned thousands of administrative planets. As for mineral planets, they numbered in the tens of thousands. Compared to the Fika civilization, true God Aiksen's influence in the Jima civilization was even greater. It could even be said that the entire Jima civilization had been incorporated into his rule. Tsing Hui let the spaceship approach those planets by stealth. He could clearly feel that the hundreds of millions of people on each administrative planet believed in true God Aiksen, and they were singing the name of true God Aiksen in an organized manner. They were carrying out various ritual activities. Under these ritual activities, a steady stream of faith similar to spiritual energy rushed toward the capital galaxy at the center of the Jima civilization. It was constantly increasing the strength of true God Aiksen. This was the cultivation method of the Master of Gods. The true gods in their system ignited the divine fire, and then absorbed the power of faith through the power of the great path law manifested by the divine spark. They used the divine fire to burn the power of faith into divine power. The stronger the divine power, the more powerful the ability. The Jima civilization in front of him had at least 3,000 administrative planets. Even if there were only 1 billion intelligent lives on each administrative planet, the entire civilization still had an astonishing population of 3 trillion. Even if only 1/10 of these people believed in true God Aiksen, they could still provide him with a strong power of faith. With the divine spark transformed from the power of faith as backup, true God Aiksen could still erupt with nearly 80% of his combat power at his peak, even if he was not in the territory of the Master of Gods. Sing Hui's gaze stopped outside the starry sky for a moment. The spaceship started again, and it did not take long for them to arrive outside the capital galaxy. Here, he could clearly feel the amazing pressure emanating from a large divine kingdom with a diameter of more than 20,000 kilometers. Through this pressure, Sing Hui immediately judged that this was a master who was not inferior to the Rosy Clouds King and the Purple Jade King. However, compared to the Radiant King, the Thunder Punishment King, the Godly Might King, and the mysterious Celestial Sword King, it was obviously still lacking. Directly starting a battle here may attract the attention of the forces under the Master of Time, but no one should associate this matter with Earth in the solar system. With this thought, Sing Hui stepped out of the spaceship without hesitation. 1 second, he was still on the spaceship, and the next second, he had already manifested his divine true body, which was 10,000 meters tall, and brazenly entered the range of the capital planet. Due to the spatialization of the divine true body, as well as the terrifying toughness that had been tempered many times, Sing Hui's speed increased to 1/10 of the speed of light when he took a step out. Even though the spaceship he was on could easily reach several tens of thousands of times or even 100,000 times the speed of light, that was because it had borrowed the power of the cosmic tide. If it were to rely solely on acceleration, it would take at least a few hours or even a few days for a spaceship to accelerate from a stationary state to the speed of light. In order to break through this limit, one would either have to be at level 19, which was equivalent to the chaotic realm, or one would have to become a high-dimensional creature. Even for high-dimensional creatures, they would also need time to accelerate to the speed of light. They were able to jump and shuttle through the universe at high speed, and each shuttle could cover several tens, hundreds, or even thousands or tens of thousands of light years. This was all because they had borrowed the power of the dimensions. Sing Hui brazenly accelerated to 1/10 of the speed of light and charged toward the capital star system in front of him. The series of reactions and huge energy waves that he triggered were instantly detected by the capital star system, and countless alarms rang out in the instruments on the capital star. It was a pity that Sing Hui's speed was too fast. Before the defense facilities could launch a counterattack, Sing Hui was already above the capital star system's capital star. He pointed his finger, and a crystallized sword aura with a diameter of nearly 10,000 meters turned into a towering sword that tore through the starry sky, slashing toward the capital star below. If there was no external obstruction, this crystallized sword aura would easily slash into the interior of the planet, destroying the core of the planet until the planet completely collapsed and turned into cosmic dust. However, true God Aixin was obviously unwilling to allow the many believers that he had worked so hard to develop to fall along with the collapse of the planet. With a furious roar, a towering and huge divine kingdom gradually rose from the sky above the planet, brazenly welcoming the crystallized sword aura that was slashing down. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.